Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to coverage of VML Season 10. Season 10. I almost got to do the Season 10 X. I'm going to make you all do it. My name's Haiyue. I'm here with Beky Bell, and we are joined because it's the very special finale of the season by the wonderful Arya Karamchandani. Arya, welcome back to the VML. How's it going? How's Wizards of the Coast treating you?
It's going really good, going really well. I'm so glad to be back. This feels so good to be doing again.
Yeah, and Beky, how's it going over with you?
Well, I broke my toe yesterday, but other than that, pretty good. I did actually break my toe yesterday. But and it's
serious?
yeah, I just stubbed it on the bedpost and broke it. It's like one of those things where you're like, this sucks. Like I've never broken something in my life, and now I break my toe, but also better my toe than anything else. So it's like, whatever. I'm not even going to the hospital or the ER or anything for it.
Yeah, and on the
they're
plus
just gonna
side,
tell
you
me to
still
not
have
walk
9
on it.
more.
Exactly. I got a lot more toes to give. It's just my baby toe. It just is really swollen and black and blue and looks horrible. But
okay, great. I'm really glad we opened this show with a graphic description of Becky's broken. Welcome to VML Season 10 and the medical reports from Beky.
Happy to be
all right, my friends. Good. That's how we like it. All right, my friends. The VML is, of course, sponsored by Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck High Five. Thank you so much to our awesome sponsors for making this happen. And we're at the end of Season 10. It feels like Season 10 just began. I mean, honestly, in my mind, it feels like Season 6 just began, but that's my problem. We've been doing this for a while now, Season 10, and 10 weeks have been played. This is the last week of the entire event. Players played 7 weeks of division play where everyone was put, all 128 players, they were all put in pods of 8. They all played against each other. And then we had a cut to the top 32 single elimination. That was a couple of weeks ago. Last week was top 16. And this week, top 8. And I'm just going to explain very quickly what we're going to do today, which is that the top 8, the quarterfinals, were played like a usual VML week off camera, off stream. That was all sorted out at the earlier part of this week. We're going to be showing you one quarterfinal match, one recorded match from that round, and then we're actually going to be doing the top 4 totally live. So we're going to be showing you both semifinals, one after the other, and then the grand finals live here on stream. Arya, you've been in a couple of these live streams before. How does it feel for the players sitting in their seats right now?
It's always really nerve-wracking because, I mean, you've got to this point. The VML is like a really strong league. And so you get to this point and you know everyone, the top 4, you're getting no easy matches. It doesn't matter what the matchups are, what the decks are. Everything's going to be really hard fought at this point. So it's pretty nerve-wracking, but also really exciting because this is the only part of the VML that gets played live on camera. And so you get to have one of your matches broadcast to a bunch of viewers live, which is really cool as well.
It certainly is very fun. Beky, covering these, always a pleasure, of course. Oh, very.
I know, if I'm this way, you can't see my eyebrow. If I'm this way, you just get one really suggestive eyebrow. Anyway.
Yeah, she really popped out there. I was like, wow.
I'm just full
what
of
have we got to?
today.
You are. What have we got to look forward to in terms of the magic that we're going to see?
We've got a lot of Esper to look forward to, which I can't say I'm terribly surprised. Since we've had this change in the metagame, I feel like this was kind of the natural order of things, and you're seeing that Esper is a huge chunk of it, more than half, and 5-color ramp is also a pretty large chunk. Again, this just seems like it was the natural order of things. You take away what was kind of dominating the format, and naturally the next 2 things that were close in line after it just work their way up. And people were already a really big fan of the 5-color ramp lists before we even got to this point where we had this metagame shift. And people were a fan of Esper Legends. And so the 2 decks that are relatively untouched by the bannings get to kind of just wiggle their way up. And this kind of seems like the natural order of things.
Wiggle their way up. That's the technical
They're
term,
wiggling.
I
Yeah.
believe,
Mhm.
for gaining metagame percentage. Love it, love it, love it. And tell me a little bit about this Dimir aggro deck. Actually, don't tell me a little bit about this
Oh,
Dimir
okay.
aggro deck because we are about to see it in action very
Good.
shortly, and we'll get to see it close up in a little while. Because for our first feature match of the evening, we did decide to show you that one single Dimir aggro deck in the hands of Amanda Cossai. She qualified from division number 7. And yeah, Beky, I mean, mono black aggro, we've seen, it's kind of known. What's the reason for the blue splash here?
Counter spells. And I mean, I like this thought process. Like, mono black, tired. Dimir aggro, wired. I love that we're just saying, sure, let's play some make disappears. So, like, the turn 2, it usually is kind of like you're not playing a ton of 2-drops aside from kill spells. And so, having a way to, if your opponent is either on the play or you don't have a Misery Shadow to be able to play on your turn, you like don't have something to destroy, but you maybe have something to counter. Like, I like having this shift in your 2-drop slot be these make disappears, and then something like Kaito Shizuki as well. Plus, it gives you a little bit of extra kind of lands to play with. Having that Odawara is always just like, we love having utility lands in our deck. It makes for things to be really nice, and it gives us a little bit of extra kind of, I'm going to use wiggle again. Gives us a little extra wiggle room in our sideboard. And I'm liking the way that we're able to make these kind of adaptations and changes off of a pretty stock mono black list and have a little bit more excitement in our lives.
Arya, are you tired or wired?
I'd say wired. This.
Oh, yeah.
I really like
Nice.
this innovation with Dimir aggro. One of the problems Mono Black, both in this standard and like just in general, has is you really struggle against decks that go over the top. Board wipes can be annoying out if you're playing a more aggressive game, and things like Atraxa, Itali, like really powerful 7-drop haymakers, a definite weakness for these decks. So splashing blue to have counterplay against those things, and even more counterplay out of the board, that's just genius.
Love it. All right, you two have got me really excited about this deck now.
I'm so excited.
Well, okay, look, you both know how I feel about counter spells. Very pro. So I'm, never really gonna complain. But
so we're all
wired.
wired.
The synthesis. We're all wired. It's only
it.
Wires. All live wires here tonight on the VML stream. Let's have a look at Amanda's opponent and what they decided to bring. It is Danni, who came from division number 3. It was actually the 3rd seed overall, so very impressive performance this season. And Danni was one of the players who decided to bring Esper Legends. Arya, Esper Legends, wired or tired?
I'd say wired, but like a lower tier of wired than Dimir aggro.
Cool. Same.
Okay. Tell us about this particular build of Legends, Arya.
This seems like pretty close to stock build of Legends. I mean, the deck is pretty prescriptive in what you play. You've got Positive Heroes, so you want to play a bunch of Legends. There's all these Legend synergies. So you mostly just play the strongest Legends in Standard. This matchup is different than what Esper Legends is kind of wants to be playing against. You want to be playing against decks that go over the top, that you can like tax a little, apply aggression, then interact with. And the Dimir aggro deck is kind of doing the same thing Esper Legends is. So it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out. This isn't a matchup I've seen before.
So tell me about the lack of Thalia.
Yeah, the lack of Thalia is an unusual one, but I think makes a lot of sense to me. Ultimately, if there's gonna be a lot of mono black decks like this Dimir one, then you really don't want to be playing Thalia, which I consider not super impactful when they're also playing 2 and 3-drop creatures. Ultimately, something like Denic or Rona has a much higher impact on the board, even if it isn't stopping board wipes. So if you're not expecting a lot of those decks, and if you expect your opponent to be running something like this, that makes sense to cut Thalia, which is a bit of a liability here.
Fantastic. Well, just to remind everyone, the players did submit their decks for the entire top 8, so which is a break, right? Normally on the VML, you submit your deck every week. You know exactly which opponent you're playing. You can make calculations to either, play into what you think they're going to do or stick with your guns. And that whole metagaming thing, a big part of the VML, except for when you get to the very end and you have to submit for the whole top 8. And that's where you're going to see a lot of these decks maybe be a little bit more generalized than we are used to seeing on this particular stream. All right, my friends, let's go down to the action now. Our one quarterfinal that we are showing you for the evening. And after this, we will be showing you, of course, the bracket and talking about the top 8. We have Amanda on the lower half, Danny on the upper half, opening hands. And it looks like that's a 1 lander for Amanda and not a great hand for Danny either. Beky, what are you doing here?
Oh, I would maybe think about keeping it for Danny. I mean, just having Skrelv in your opening hand, I feel like is kind of very important, but I do understand shipping it back as well. Amanda, I think that one was kind of like a no-brainer. This hand is potentially much better. Thankfully, that creature that is in hand is the Evolved Sleeper, and if it gets to just stay in play, you do have the ability to eventually draw cards off of that Evolved Sleeper. So I like this hand, and unfortunately that Danny is going to 5, but this is probably the best 5 that we've seen, but it is unfortunate that your first play is going to be that Rafine, and you're kind of inevitably not interacting. And I mean, we have like the all-powerful omnipotent seat and being able to see exactly these 2 go for the throats that Amanda has to deal with whatever 2 creatures get kept for Danny.
I mean, if you were to ask for 5 specific cards
those
in your
might be
Legend
them,
decks, they might be them. We're going to see this Evolved Sleeper come down on turn number 1, and Amanda has also found a Graveyard Trespasser as a secondary threat. Now, Arya, what are we looking for in the early turns of these games?
So what the Esper Legends deck really wants to be doing is getting down early creatures, which, as we can see, hasn't happened. But for the Mono Black deck, I think it's a lot more about playing reactive, and Evolved Sleeper in particular is kind of perfect in this matchup because it lets you hold up mana and is very good against Esper Legends, which doesn't really have a lot of interaction for it.
Here comes Rafine scheming Seer on time for Danny. And Amanda has to go for the throat. Of course, Rafine does have that ward 1, but Beky, if you're Amanda, do you think just get this Rafine off the board or develop out your Graveyard Trespasser?
I think this is kind of an interesting place to be as far as this decision goes, and it looks like we're going to see if we can just attack through with this Evolved Sleeper first, and it is actually going to get through. Rafine not going to go in front of it. And I think honestly, the moment that we drew this cut down, I was like, oh, what a good card. Like 5 combined power toughness, Rafine conveniently a 1/4, and so we get to use as little mana as possible, even considering that ward 1, and continue to hold these go for the throats, which are a little more kind of catch-all and are going to be way better against the Shieldred than anything else. So I like how Amanda decided to kind of take that and is immediately setting that stop before that Shieldred even comes onto the board.
Yeah, you got to get that stop in your upkeep. You can't always trust Arena to give you the option and go for the throat as if you're taking care of children. And that represents, unfortunately for Danny, the last threat that they had access to, given that they drew another couple of lands for the turn. So unfortunately for Danny, after that mulligan to 5 in the first game here, not drawing a lot, and the deck is not helping either. Otawara being kept in hand as potentially a spell Arya, but what can Danny really do at this point? Like, is there one card, a big draw, that can get them out of this?
Not really, no. Wedding Announcement is the closest there is. That's one of the advantages their deck has in this matchup as compared to many other Espelers. But Amanda drawing that cut down in particular makes it tough, because that means Skrill isn't out to the go for the throat and protecting your future creatures isn't available anymore, and that's pretty rough.
Looks like Danny might even take the opportunity to use that Otawara here just to slow things down a little bit. Beky, what does this say to you?
I think this is a pretty obvious sign from Danny that there's not a whole lot happening. I mean, you did see Danny mull to 5, and so from Amanda's seat, you've got to be understanding that there maybe just isn't as much in hand as Danny would maybe like to have, and especially returning something like the Evolved Sleeper that is kind of a level up creature in a lot of ways is just giving you that piece of information. And I don't know, I think I would just be trying to develop things really hardcore again and saying, all right, you know what, if you've given me this information, I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. And putting this evolved sleeper back down, as I mentioned again, is going to just be able to level up until the 10 life that Danny has may not be enough, even though we did draw this wedding announcement.
Yeah, there's that wedding announcement that Arya, you were talking about. Danny down to just 10 life in this position.
Yeah,
Arya, were you surprised to see this, the kind of conservative, maybe cautious play from Amanda there, not playing out that trespass?
This play seems pretty strong to me. You get to level up the Evolved Sleeper twice on end step if you Amanda gets to level it up twice on end step if she wants to, and that's presenting a similar amount of pressure to the Graveyard Trespasser, while also letting her hold up removal if she wants it.
Okay, well, here is that wedding announcement. Danny, by the way, doing a great job of the arena bluff, just making sure that they have that full control going.
You love to see
Want
it.
to keep Amanda guessing. Yeah, you got it. And here comes the attack, though. Not unfortunately for Danny, there's just not a lot going on. Misery's Shadow, what a great card that doesn't really get to see as much play as I want it to, Arya.
Yeah, it's tough in standard. There's so much to compete with at that 2-drop slot. We just talked about Talia not making the cut in the Esper deck, and Misery Shadow got a lot of competition.
Does have a lot of competition. Hello?
Yeah.
Did she help? Did she help?
I think if we didn't have 2 pieces of removal, I would be like in my brain trying to put together, okay, what's the thing that I'm going to try and either get rid of or block with this Wandering Emperor? Because you're functionally going to have 2 blockers. A little bit of life gain, but it is hard when you have to deal with Misery's Shadow and Evolved Sleeper that both kind of get bigger. And I think rightfully from Danny's position, there just isn't really as much as you would love to be able to do, even though that feels like it was a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, just too little too late there for Danny. They're going to scoop it up, and we're going to look at the sideboard now. Arya, do you like what you are seeing?
I mean, I see a Phyrexian Obliterator, so I definitely like what I'm seeing, regardless of whether it comes in this matchup.
Okay,
You're a Phyrexian Obliterator? Okay.
That's on me. I was not specific enough with the question that I asked.
I want to know where Arya's Phyrexian Obliterator fascination originates. You just a fan of that card?
Yeah, have you read it?
I mean, yeah, I have. It's a pretty sweet card.
Which part of it is your favorite?
Oh, it's so hard to choose.
It's the 4 black for me.
My favorite is that it doesn't say non-land on it. That's my favorite part.
It's definitely appealing part of the card. I do like how this matchup shifts for Danny post-mod. Traditionally, these mono-black decks with a lot of interaction are pretty good against Esper Legend style decks, and one of the weaknesses Danny's specific build had Amanda's specific build had game 1 is she had more blue cards that didn't line up quite as well against cheap threats, but post-mod she gets to pivot to pretty much just a mono-black control deck with Make Disappears, and that's kind of exactly where you want to be against Esper.
What about for Danny, though, here in number 2? We're seeing cutdowns coming. We're also seeing duresses coming. That's a lot of 1-mana black spells as we look at the opening hands once again. And it's not great for Danny again, Arya.
Yeah, a turn 1 Scroll, I think, goes a long way and makes his hand pretty tempting to keep. I mean, we know it lines up poorly against Amanda's hand, but it's really hard. It's hard to justify mulliganing a hand when there's some chance Scroll just completely turns off Amanda's removal against a pile of Go for the Threads.
They do send it back, and this one is going to be a keep. 2 copies of Go for the Throat plus a Shieldred. And let's have a look at Amanda's hand now. Beky, speaking of 1-mana spells, cut down and duress to go with some threats.
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty like strong keep from Amanda. You've got a little bit of information gathering in this duress, and then you just get to follow it up with a 2 and 3 drop creature if you are able to find that second land. And if not, you've got to cut down in another duress to kind of double spell on another turn after the Misery's Shadow. Or you can just kind of try to pump the Misery's Shadow and get as much damage in. You have a lot of options, even though you don't have a lot of land, and I think it's one of the strong parts about Amanda's deck.
Yeah, Duress particularly good here because the Esper Legend's only way of getting card advantage is wedding announcement. So if you make sure they can't get that going, you're almost locked to win the long game.
Oh, that's a beautiful point.
Yeah, and Duress really is just kind of decimating Danny's hand here. They are just left with one copy of Shieldred. Amanda has the answer in the form of Go for the Throat, ready and waiting. Graveyard Trespasser is going to come down. And, you know, really just a couple of games in, a couple of turns into this game, it does feel like Amanda is on the front foot already. That Danny has found a second copy of Shieldred.
It seems like this Shieldred would be a nice thing to draw, but once again, we have the omnipotent seat. We're able to see the 2 copies of Go for the Throat. So
Oof.
even if you're in Danny's spot and you're like, it's okay, this Shieldred got taken down, I've got another one. I mean, at least you have the Takanuma to go for the functional Shieldred number 3, I suppose, but being stuck on the back foot this much has got to just feel kind of brutal.
Yeah, they have really not had a good few turns of it. Arya, go ahead.
And Takanuma also, like, strong card, close it about as close to card advantage as Esper gets. A lot weaker when there's Graveyard Trespassers and Misery Shadows walking around, unfortunately.
That is a great point. I was thinking about the Graveyard Trespasser, but I kind of forget that flavor text on Misery's Shadow, kind of putting all of your opponent's creatures into exile. Urtai resurrected now from Danny. This could maybe do something. Ari, what do you think?
Yeah, at the very least, it trades and keeps Danny alive a little longer, maybe forces a cut down. At this point, I think Danny's one out of winning the game is they draw another Shieldred, and Amanda does not draw an answer for it. So anything that buys time till that can happen, probably good for them.
All right. Graveyard Glutton is going to be appearing on the graveyard on the battlefield now that given that Danny passed the turn back without playing any spells. And let's see what happens here with this Urtai. Looks like Danny is going to be pitching that Takanuma to target this Graveyard Glutton.
You know, not the worst use of it. Yeah.
This is a really heads up play from Danny because the greedy play here is to main phase the Urtai, kill the Sleeper, and then try and trade with the Glutton. And that way you don't have to discard a card to ward. But Danny knows that Amanda's missing land drops, likely to have interaction in hand. And if they go for that line and Amanda has interaction for their Urtai, then they fall really far behind to the Graveyard Glutton.
And look at this. Nice tight play here from both players as Amanda gives Danny the option to block with the Urtai, and they decided not to take it. So Amanda getting more information before deciding whether to use this cut down or not. And it looks like she's actually just going to develop out that Graveyard Trespasser number 2. Beky, Amanda kind of in the driver's seat here once again.
Yeah, I feel like
it's Kaito though.
Ooh, yeah. The big difference for these two players is that Amanda has constantly drawn a good mix of lands and spells, and Danny has kind of ended up flooded in a lot of ways. And while this Kaito is nice, it's kind of just going to be generating blockers, which I suppose isn't the worst thing in the world, but it at least gets to stay safe because it phases out as well. But that does mean that Danny's life total is going to continue to be the thing in threats range.
Danny sitting at 11 life, so not kind of down in the danger zone just yet, but this mono black-esque aggro deck certainly can take that down pretty quickly, especially with Graveyard Glutton, Misery's Shadow, and all of these efficient threats. And speaking of Misery's Shadow, it looks like that is going to be the play for Amanda, who has struggled to find her 4th mana source, but it has not seemed to have held her back that much, Arya.
Yeah, I mean, if she'd found her 4th mana source, this game would probably already have been over thanks to that Shieldred. But Yeah, when you play, that's the beautiful thing about playing a deck full of interaction like this is even if you miss land drops, can't play perfectly efficiently, you can still function by just having removal spell after removal spell after removal spell.
What do you think about the decision not to attack here, Beky?
I'm a little interested. I can see that Amanda really did prioritize using this cut down on that unblockable creature, so is really just trying to kind of stifle Danny's ways to gather card advantage. We'd kind of mentioned, or Arya had definitely mentioned that the Esper deck certainly struggles to have any form of card advantage. And so just continuing to say, all right, if you're struggling with card advantage and I have it over you right now, then I'm going to try and keep that up as long as possible so I can have a good understanding of how to evade everything that you're trying to do. So it's a very controlling kind of style. I would have attacked, but I also certainly think, like, after now analyzing the play from Amanda, think that I would probably be wrong.
All right. Well, Danny, speaking of card advantage, gets a little bit of virtual card advantage here. The loot from Kaito being turned into essentially a card draw with that Denic coming back straight away from the graveyard. And now Danny has a pair of 3/2s, one flying, one on the ground, protecting both them and Kaito. Arya, still no fourth land for Amanda.
Yeah, and this is the point at which it's starting to get awkward. Danny's amassing a board. Amanda has finally run out of interaction, which makes the not being able to cast that shield word actually matter. And Amanda kind of needs to close the game before Danny draws something that can maybe put them back in this, like another shield word.
Okay, here comes the big attack. All three creatures getting in. And Danny has to think about what the blocks are going to be. Looks like they are not interested in the double block on the Graveyard Glutton, Beky.
Yeah, there's not really any more creatures for the Graveyard Glutton to get in those like extra little chip points of damage. So just trying to clear off as many little things as possible and then hoping that Kaito or another creature is going to be able to come in and stave off the attack from the Graveyard Glutton, I think is a reasonable decision tree here. And then we do just have a follow up of either another evolved sleeper and evolve or the tenacious underdog. I'd kind of be leaning towards the tenacious underdog because if it dies on the next turn, the blitz is going to be able to hopefully come through if we can get ourselves another land and then just continue to be another form of card advantage in that blitz.
Back over to Danny now, who finds wedding announcement. They're at 4 life. They find wedding announcement. They have an Otawara in hand. Kaito still on the battlefield. Arya, what's going to happen from here on out?
I think the plan for Danny stays the same it has been for like the last five-ish turns, which is stall until you get something like a shield ward down. Whereas for Amanda, if she continues to not find land, it could be kind of awkward. Wedding announcement is hard to keep up with out of mono black decks, particularly now that Invoke Despair is gone. And the stream of chump blockers is pretty good at keeping Danny alive.
Oh my goodness. Instead of making a chump blocker, Danny is going to go for the loot, gets rid of that Otawara, which is not helping them very much, and finds go for the throat. So all of a sudden, Danny, from having almost nothing going on in hand, wedding announcement plus go for the throat, and this could be the beginning of clawing their way back into this game number 2. Beky, what do you think?
So far, so good. I mean, I think Danny still is in a position where we've kind of got to hold on. Amanda is just still that one land away from casting this Shieldred that could be really annoying to the 4 life left from Danny. But hey, the double spell at the same time is allowing for this Graveyard Trespasser to flip back, and that's got to be pretty big.
Now that the gut down was drawn, it's probably all over because that's just 4 damage right there for Amanda with the Graveyard Trespasser attack.
Yeah, because we have the creature that was just destroyed.
Makes sense. So cut down the best draw that for Amanda. Graveyard Trespasser gets the trigger. That is going to be a good game from Danny, and it's going to be Amanda Cossai who takes home the win in the quarterfinals and advances to the semifinals. A little bit unfortunate that for our Esper Legend player, Danny. You know, they had to take that mulligan to 5 in the first game, but this Dimir aggro-ish, control-ish deck, tempo-ish deck. Let's call it tempo. We love
Sure.
tempo.
I
on
like
this.
that.
We love tempo on this stream. This Dimir tempo deck is really showing its chops against Esper, and Arya, the field is full of Esper tonight.
Yeah, and this Dimir deck seems uniquely well built to fight both ends of the Esper spectrum, both Legends and Control. We saw how the removal speed lines up against Esper, but at the same time, aggressive creatures with disruption, exactly where I want to be against a creatureless Control deck. So even if there's awkward removal game one maybe against Esper, I like this deck's chances going into this field.
All right, let's have a check-in on the bracket then, since we've just got to see our quarterfinals for the evening. And there you can see it. All the top 8 there lined up. Mel Woods, Zoe, Connell, Pipermaru, Jessie, Danni, Amanda Cossai, BloodyMessJess, Inkheart. All of them doing a great job to make it to this week, the last week, the top 8 week. And there you see Amanda filled in there, our semi-finalists for the evening, and we can maybe hopefully fill in the rest of the bracket now to update everyone on what we're going to be seeing next, because from this point in we are going to be watching the live matches. So Zoe Connell coming out on top in that first quarterfinals, Pipermaru in the second one, and BloodyMessJess filling up the bracket at the bottom. Some pretty big names in this top 8. You know, Jessie, very, very well known in the modern constructed competitive world for sure. Zoe Connell, been around for a long time, but BloodyMessJess has played many, many VMLs. Mel Woods as well. For all of these top 8 players, even if they didn't make it to the quarterfinals, they already qualified for not only their regional championships, but also the VML championships, which are coming up later this year. We will talk a bit more about that later. But Beky, tell me about the decks that made it through to the quarterfinals.
We've got some more Esper. And I mean, we were just talking about how this Dimir aggro deck is actually very well slotted. And the whole time that I'm watching it play against this Esper deck, I'm just like, this was a sweet metagame choice. Because if you'd have just shown me that list against Esper Control, which is the most popular deck that was submitted for the top 8, or any of the 5-color ramp lists, I would have said this deck, like Mono Black, was probably strong against those, but does, as Arya mentioned earlier, suffer against board wipes. But what does this Dimir version kind of fix? You're playing ways to counteract a lot of those board wipes. And so I'm feeling really good about this Dimir aggro deck. It was something that excited me just seeing when we were looking at the metagame before the top 8. And it's exciting me even more after watching it beat Esper Legends, which seemed like it might have been the place where it would kind of struggle potentially the most because it's the deck with the most blockers. But hey, I mean, we were able to get through that pretty easily, and I'm excited to see how that is going to continue to go forward in the form of this top 4.
All right, so let's just give production a second to figure out which of our semifinals is gonna be coming up first. I believe we're gonna have Zoe Connell against Pipermaru. So Zoe, from division number 15, and making it all the way here. Zoe, not with mono black mid range, so I do apologize there for the little blip in the graphics. But Zoe is in fact playing. Let me just get this. Make sure I'm getting this right. Esper Control.
Mm-hmm.
Esper Control. Don't worry, we will get that fixed for you. But Zoe, with the Esper Control list, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this deck because, oh, perfect. Here we go. Thank you so much, Phoebe. All right, Esper Control. It's not Esper Legends. That's the first thing to say. No Rafines in sight, no Shieldreds, at least in the main deck in sight. And it is a lot of answers. Arya, tell us about why you would bring something like this to the top 8.
So this is just an extremely solid deck all around at the moment. It's been doing well in a lot of tournaments. We've seen a bunch of people crush with it through the seasons. And it makes a lot of sense that this deck would rise to the top after the spate of bannings we saw and the changes to standard. now that we've lost Reckoner, Bankbuster, Invoke Despair, Fable, Memory Deluge is one of the more powerful card advantage tools left in Standard. So some sort of controlling deck that leverages that and tries to take over the game with the sheer mass of cards it provides makes a lot of sense as a choice right now. So it's just an extremely solid deck.
And let's have a look at who Zoe is playing against. So our second semi-finalist for this particular round is Pipermaru, or at least her adorable cat, who I hope is genuinely the controller playing this particular deck. And Beky, this deck, it's the Canadian monstrosity 5-color ramp.
I feel like you should talk about it then if it's called the Canadian monstrosity, but I'm kind of a fan of any ramp deck. Ramp has been something pretty close to my heart since I started playing Magic, so I'm pretty excited to see any deck that's kind of just saying, you know what, my life total is a resource, and I'm going to see if I can cast something really big into the later game, namely if I can get this Atraxa Grand Unifier onto the battlefield. And just, I mean, the name of the game at that point is just card advantage. So I think that it'll be interesting to see this matchup because, as I mentioned, this is kind of my life total is a resource. But if you don't have a deck that's really threatening your life total, it's just kind of also gathering card advantage early because its life total isn't in trouble. I would maybe be a little bit worried to be in the 5-color ramp seat because it feels like those times where you're just playing like draw go, the Esper deck is going to be in a little bit more control.
All right. I mean, Pipermaru also has a couple of interesting inclusions in the main here. One copy of Chromehost Seachug in the main, which, by the way, my friends, if you have not seen Chromehost Seachug and Leyline Binding do their thing, it is absolutely disgusting. And one copy of Tyrannus Rex in the main deck as well, which could come into play later. We don't know yet, but looks like the players are ready to go for our first live semifinals. Pipermaru against Zoe Connell. Opening hand here, 5 lands, Sunfall, Siphon Insight for Zoe. What more could you want, Arya?
Really nothing more. Maybe a counterspell would be nice, but a lot of what this matchup's going to come down to is how Zoe's answers line up against Piper's threats, and Pipermaru's creatures not pretty good against spot removal, not so good against counters. So card advantage, no spot removal, kind of a perfect hand for Zoe.
Yeah, double Siphon Insight now, so that's going to be getting the cards flowing. And looks like we're going to see that being fired off. So unlike a normal control mirror where, you know, maybe you see the first 6 turns of the game really not being about mana development and kind of gathering things going, we're actually going to see some plays in the early turns here, Beky.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool to see too, and this is kind of from Pipermaru's standpoint, maybe an unfortunate fruition of what I was talking about. These Siphon Insights are just a little bit better at generating card advantage early when neither of these players are kind of hurting each other as far as life totals are concerned.
Well, both players are suddenly doing all right with their mana development. We did see a Make Disappear catch one of the Topiary Stompers, but no fear, Pipermaru has a whole bunch of dinosaurs at her disposal.
Some stompy friends.
Some stompy friends. Arya, Topiary Stomper, wired or tired?
I'd say pretty wired. This card didn't see much play for the first many months after it came out, and seeing it make a resurgence like this, thanks to Invasion of Zendikar, is I think really cool.
Yeah, the synergy with Invasion is so sweet to see. We see Siphon Insight there getting a land, getting Jetmir's Garden, which Beky kind of makes sense considering this leyline binding.
Yeah, I was gonna say we want lands. I am interested if this leyline binding does actually get cheaper. I guess this was never an interaction that I really thought about. So yeah, Arya, please help my brain.
It does, and this is kind of perfect for Zoe because
Arena is deceiving me, what you're telling me.
I believe her deck has a total of 3 basics in it, maybe 2. So that leyline binding was never getting cheaper off her own cards.
Okay.
Jetmir's Garden kind of perfect for that.
Love it.
That's so funny. Sorry, it's just so funny that. Oh my goodness.
Yo, these Siphon Insights are going burr.
Well,
This
I mean, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Stealing Italy as well. I mean,
Crying,
the
screaming,
better
throwing
your
up.
opponent's deck is, the better Siphon Insight's gotta be, right?
I was gonna say Siphon Insight has to be like one of the sweetest cards in this matchup because the 5-color ramp deck is just playing house cards.
House cards, just house as in there is
Houses and they're
big and
strong and they
heavy as a
always win.
house. I see, I see. All right, all right. Back over to Pipermaru, who does not have a 6th land at this moment, but does have a hard migration to go and get it. That does mean though that there's going to be no 7 drop deployed this particular turn. But the 7th land area means that these Topio Stompers get to get in.
Yeah, and this is really a pretty good spot for Pipermaru. The idea that she has these threats that were also ramp spells that she can start attacking to without overcommitting is really nice against all the board wipes Zoe has. Uh, this matchup's really a lot about like discipline and patience and making sure you don't overcommit while applying enough pressure that a single piece of interaction isn't going to stymie your entire game plan.
So we do see the Chrome Host Sea Shark there being deployed as Zoe fires off a memory deluge, the first of the evening. And now Zoe does have the Sunfall, but Pipermaru, do you think it was worth playing out this Sea Shark, Arya?
I think so. If there's a removal spell on the Topiary Stomper at end of turn, then and untap into play a big threat for that's been taken off of Siphon Insight, that puts Pipermaru pretty far behind. So I think she needed to apply pressure with the idea that Traxa can recoup if a board wipe happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of pressure, here comes Atraxa, the first Atraxa of the evening, and let's see what she's gonna be finding. As usual, pretty terrifying when your opponent gets to resolve this Atraxa because their hand just instantly refilled with all sorts of goodies. Beky, do you think Zoe's feeling the pressure here?
I would be a little bit, if not from just this Atraxa. The moment that you see an Atraxa pick up another Atraxa, and you're like, "Oh, that first one
Ugh.
was cast." So, like, even if I handle this Atraxa, it's just gonna have to worry about another Atraxa down the line. Like, there now are a bunch of threats that you're gonna have to worry about. Like, we have a few answers, but we also like if I'm in Zoe's seat, I want to be casting some of these spells that I stole from my opponent with Siphon Insight early in the game. And I would start to
Mm.
be a little sad that I'm not able to cast something like this Atali or the Herd Migration because I've missed a land drop last turn and I'm now having to answer probably back-to-back Atraxas from Pipermaru.
So it's going to be Shield's edict to answer this first one. So you're thinking about maybe even flipping this incubate token and getting in, but ultimately gonna just play it safe for now. Hold back. Void Rend in hand, ready to go. Memory Deluge number 2. Cut down, Leyline Binding, all options as we go back over to Pipermaru. Now, Arya, this this kind of game, how do the players get into a winning position?
Well, the time to find a winning position is quickly passing for Zoe because what she really needs to be doing is just running Piper Maru out of cards. And what Piper Maru needs to be doing is play Haymaker after Haymaker and don't have them counted because all of Piper Maru's threats draw more cards. So attacking on the interacting with your threats once they hit the bot axis, not very good for the Esper deck, and the Esper deck will eventually just run out of answers that way.
Well, Atraxa is gonna get some more cards, but you know, when the second Atraxa comes down, usually you think, oh, but does it matter that much if they already had a full grip of cards and they're going to need to discard all of these anyway?
Yeah, this is one of the
Becky, what
less
do you think?
impressive Atraxas.
I'm kind of with Arya. I think it's yeah, you've a ton of Atraxas. You got so many cards in hand. I like Zoe's decision to say, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna try and get some card advantage too. It does feel like our missing of land drops to just like play land go and be able to also like double spell in turns has been a little rough. And now we're like playing this memory deluge to try and keep up with it. I'm also a little worried for Zoe, all things considered, but we are going to be able to find some land, but our answers to this Atraxa as it stands are maybe not what we would like them to be, but just letting this one kind of sit and play and hopefully waiting until it attacks to maybe leyline binding it is not the worst game plan in the world.
Now here it comes the attack. It's going to be Void Rend, it looks like, instead of maybe something like the leyline binding.
Yeah. And something I want to get y'all's eyes on is that Rafine's Tower that Zoe just played, because that means Herd Migration can now make 5 3/3s and maybe a way for Zoe to steal the game by applying a lot of pressure very quickly.
Speaking of 5 3/3s, Pipermaru. Yeah. There could be a lot of 3/3s potentially on both sides of the battlefield in this particular game. And here comes the Wandering Emperor for Zoe. We're gonna make a samurai here. It looks hello.
Yes, we will.
Is leyline binding good in this matchup for Pipermaru? Like generally?
It's broadly at least decent. It's better than like the board wipes or the like ossifications. I mean, Zoe does eventually need to win the game, and it's pretty convenient to be able to like have answers to things Zoe steals off of Siphon Insights.
So being very careful here with the tapping, making sure the auto tapper doesn't mess up, leaving up 4 mana, leaving up Wandering Emperor, has leyline binding available. There's memory deluges. I wonder if there's a fun plural for deluges.
You don't think deluges is fun?
Wow. The way you asked that was very loaded.
I knew for you it would be. I'm sorry.
Of that question. Okay, well, we promised you a lot of 3/3s, and never say that we don't deliver on our promises here on the VML stream.
Yeah, Zoe, even the first person to hover as we go into the turn. Herd Migration, maybe we'll see even more. Pretty tempting.
Pretty tempting indeed.
Are we going to see if we can Wandering Emperor to... Oh, never mind. I was like, ooh, are we going to see if we can just, like, have a little got him moment?
There is no got him moment, unless it's... unless you count the leyline binding from Pipermaru as a
I would.
Moment, but you would? Okay. And now we're getting to that point, where Arya, you mentioned Zoe really needs to be starting to run Piper out of cards, has a Dissipate in her hand, does not have 3 mana, it looks like, to cast it.
This cut down is looking really sad. It's kind of looked sad since the moment that we drew it, but
Is there any targets? There are no targets.
There are 0 targets.
Okay. So that's just straight up a dead card.
If we ever had like a 2/2 incubate token from Pipermaru's Sunfalls.
Okay. All right. We solved it. Are there any... Wait, no. There might be some Wandering Emperors. Are there any Wandering Emperors?
Oh.
There are no Wandering.
Okay. There are no Wandering Emperors. Okay, so you're right.
Ooh.
There could be some 2/2 tokens. And this is going to be a big attack in.
Pipermaru
really,
okay, we're not.
Yeah, using up a lot of resources there to get rid of these blockers. And speaking of the Wandering Emperor, Zoe uses leyline binding, frees up the Wandering Emperor, and manages to gain a little bit of life as well. So the board is now under control. And finally, we're going to see some of these, we're going to see some of these big hitters from Siphon Insight go. Entirely time. What is Zoe gonna be flipping off the libraries? Let's find out together. And oh my goodness, no,
sad.
surely not. No.
Those might be like the worst things to have
the
flipped.
worst. Oh my goodness.
That was an impressively bad Itali.
Yeah.
That is really
I'm keeping
quite
impressively
upsetting.
bad in my back pocket. That's
Yeah.
good. Oh.
Really unfortunate stuff here for Zoe, but she's going to be contenting herself with just putting a counter on the Itali, getting to pass over, but at least she gets to counter the Atraxa Arya.
Well, it's more than that. Next turn, she's going to get to flip the Itali, and there's not enough toughness on Pipermaru's side to block the Itali and live after it gets an Emperor counter.
Oh
my goodness. Itali can flip, and then it gets another counter, and that's going to be lethal via poison counters? What is happening?
Wait, that's
Beky,
sick. That's sick.
What is happening? Beky, if you had been asked
how I thought somebody was going to win tonight? Ooh.
Yeah, was this the victory you were thinking about?
Absolutely not, but I am stoked about it nonetheless. Oh my gosh, 10 poison. We've assembled Voltron.
And can we talk about how Zoe just saw it, by the way? That was her plan, Arya. She put that counter on, she knew exactly what she was going to do.
Yeah, it's just absolutely stellar play from Zoe, baiting out all of Pipermaru's answers on the tokens by running out of herd migration, setting up so that she didn't take too much damage, didn't have to be on the defensive, and then lining it up perfectly to have a counter spell for the Atraxa from Pipermaru.
That was a sick game.
Yeah. That was so sick. Great stuff there from both of our players. As we look at the sideboards, there's cut downs, by the way, hitting the side immediately. First thing to go.
Get those out of here.
Yeah, get them out of here. Arya, do you like these changes?
Yeah, for sure. I think post-board, the matchup becomes a lot better for Esper once there's no cut downs you need to have in your deck. So Pipermaru definitely going to be on the back foot against that. After that, just like memory deluge plus answer after answer is pretty hard to keep up with.
All right, let's have a look at the opening hands here. Double memory deluge, edict, and silver scrutiny. A lot of card advantage for Zoe, but not a lot of other things going on and not a lot of mana. Whereas for Pipermaru, binding, stomper, invasion of Zendikar, that looks like a really, really sweet hand there from the Canadian monstrosity deck, and she found one of the monstrosities in the form of Tyrannus Rex.
I'm so excited about Tyrannus Rex.
I knew you would be.
I love a big, thicky green creature that just has a little bit of text on it, you know?
Tyrannus Rex, wired or tired?
Wired that you would be playing it.
I'd say it's pretty wired.
All right.
Yeah,
it's Phyrexian. There's got to be wires in there.
Oh my goodness, Ari. the Phyrexians, they just haven't invented like Bluetooth technology yet.
No.
That's the problem.
I think if you look at the art of Phyrexians, they're clearly a fan of wires.
I agree with Beky on this.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm glad we have some consensus here in the booth, as we're going to see Invasion of Zendikar now put on the stack for the first time from Pipermaru. This card has been so sweet in this deck.
We are ramping.
Zoe's gonna let that happen, and yeah, let's go with the lands. And you know, Pipermaru did a great job of already having a lot of the basic types, but here they are all again. Now, what do you think about this Void Rend from Zoe? Is it... Oh, the stump is going face. That's interesting.
Yeah, we don't need the flip side of Invasion of Zendikar. We're only playing it to get basic lands.
Yeah. Void Rend's a pretty convenient answer here because it's the one thing that actually answers Tyrannus Rex for a reasonable amount of mana here. So I think Zoe's definitely much better off having it in her hand.
Okay. And the Silver Scrutiny is just going to be cycled away there. Zoe has a fourth land now, still has a Gunjo left in hand. Here's that Tyrannus Rex. You see Zoe...
Rex!
My goodness. Beky, calm thyself.
No!
No, you will not.
Unfortunately, Voidrun says this spell can't be countered. Tyrannix Rex crying in Ward 4.
Yeah, Void Render's just like this guy's just going around like cutting all the wires up, you know.
No! Not my wires.
Poor Tyrannus Rex hitting the bin, but Topher Stomper did get in, Zoe down to 12 life. And Pipermaru really taking this very aggressive line in this particular game. It's working out so far, but we know that Zoe does have quite a few answers in hand.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. We saw a hand from Zoe that didn't do anything early in the game, so I think it's quite reasonable to assume that there's likely a board wipe or two in there. So not overcommitting to the board by not attacking that invasion of Zendikar, pretty heads up play.
And Piper does a couple of cycles, finds a disdainful stroke, but does not have blue mana left up, I believe. I think that's a Zeator's Proving Ground in the top corner over there. No matter though, it is going to just be a pass back. Here's another Topher Stomper.
Yeah. And Stomper, one of the better draws there, I think, for Pipermaru. It's important at this point that she's able to leave Disdainful Stroke up. And so being able to deploy a threat without tapping out of Stroke, definitely one of the better things she can be doing.
Does hit the battlefield, and she's actually going to use that Disdainful Stroke to counter the first Memory Deluge.
I can't decide if that feels like kind of bad or not. Like,
right.
I feel like there's a level of hitting a spell that has flashback or something just is not always what you want to do.
I think I'm pretty happy to hit the Memory Delusion this spot. Just like it's a strong tempo play. It leaves Zoe struggling maybe a little more to hit land drops, puts pressure on her to deluge again on a future turn to make sure her hand's filled. I think it's overall pretty much what Pipermaru wants to do with those Disdainful Strokes.
All right. I mean, you know, this time though, she is changing direction a little bit. Going to be hitting that invasion of Zendikar, adding another 4/4 to the battlefield. Has the Atraxa in hand and is going to be playing a little bit coy with Atraxa, holding her back for a future turn. And this Memory Deluge is resolving. And Beky, I see Siphon Insight there being chosen.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We had a fun time getting cards from our opponent's deck and winning with the cards from our opponent's deck last time, so let's see what we can get. These are much less exciting, but you know, an ossification when your opponent is playing 2 4/4s is probably not the worst thing to pick up in the world. We don't have a basic to attach it to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think she has any basics, so she couldn't take that.
I wasn't aware that was something a person could do.
And
not have basics.
Taking a forest there, really, really smart play from Zoe, because this guarantees that she can play a land drop, farewell those 2 4/4s, and still have mana up for Disdainful Stroke in case there's an Atraxa or Natalie coming from Pipermaru. So really smart play.
Yeah, Zoe has been really, really good at just making sure she's covering all the angles, playing very, very tight, tapping her lands manually every time. Every time I say tapping manually, by the way, I think about the breathing manually meme. And Atraxa is, as you quite rightly pointed out, Arya, going to be hit by that Disdainful Stroke.
This is what Zoe
Are you breathing manually now?
Yes, I am. It's one of those things that's so silly because just the moment that you start thinking about it, it's just like all that happens. You mentioned that you like Chrome Host Seed Shark with Leyline Binding. What about Chrome Host Seed Shark and Memory Deluge?
Oh, does that work?
Unfortunately not. It's a bit of a nomination.
No! I am so sad.
That is sad. It's like there was another nomination with Memory Deluge. What was it? It was like the
Galvanic Iteration.
Yeah.
A large part of why Memory Deluge didn't see play for a long time was that specific combo of cards.
Which sucks too, because it's such a cool and good card.
Speaking of cool and good cards, Pipermaru hitting the Atraxa off the top, and Zoe out of counterspells. So That was an insane draw there for Pipermaru. Shieldred's Edict is going to be dealing with the body, but let's see what she can find with this.
Is there not another one? There's an Archangel of Wrath, but there's not another Atraxa, which has got to be at least a little bit better from Zoe's seat, especially when we have 2 deluges in the yard.
I would definitely be happier with an Atraxa here.
Mm-hmm.
No Atraxa, does have an Archangel, does hit Hell Migration as well as another invasion of Zendikar. It's not over yet, and Zoe, as you say, Beky, just the one Void Rend in hand, but has the 2 Memory Deluges in the graveyard lined up and ready to go. It's 3/3 time.
I was gonna say, it's like maybe a rough turn to be like, well, I'm gonna have to cast this Memory Deluge, but at least you're likely able to find something like a Sunfall off of something like this 7-mana Memory Deluge rather than the Herd Migration, or rather than just the 4-mana one. So I don't know. It's rough that you're not able to proactively do anything, but being reactive has got to feel just as all right. Unfortunately, though, we don't see something like a Sunfall, but we do see some counterspells. That's all right.
I mean, I would rather have counterspells than a Sunfall. I'm just gonna say that right now. You can don't at me. Dissipate.
All right. I'd rather have a counterspell than most anything.
Yeah. Arya said what I was thinking.
Wow, I can't believe I'm that transparent. Here is the Archangel. It's gonna be a pretty big threat. A little flyer there for Pipermaru, but we know Zoe has at least one answer in the form of the Void Rend.
Yeah, and Archangel actually a pretty impactful card post-mod for Pipermaru, even though there aren't really creatures to hit. What Archangel does is that's really nice is it pressures Zoe's life total. She knows the game can't go on infinitely because at some point those Archangels are just going to hit her for 4 over and over again, and she needs to do something before that eventually kills her.
She's not quite at that spot yet, but is down to 9 life. So Pipermaru's kind of aggro plan is starting to come to fruition as we see Herd Migration go on the stack again. Now, we know, of course, Zoe already has the Disdainful Stroke, but she's going to Memory Deluge before casting it as well. And I always say this, but when players have this particular negate, it is just, it makes me so happy.
It's the best art. It's the best negate art.
It's just the best art. It's the best negate. Yeah.
I have foil signed ones that I'm
oh
in
my
love with.
god, Beky. Oh my god, I'm going to steal your...
I'll let you borrow them for a tournament sometime.
Okay, thank you. Arya, Merfolk negate, wired or tired?
I need something in between those. Transpired?
There is no transpired?
No, I kind of like that. And I agree with there needing to be something in the middle. Not everything is black and white.
Retired? No, that's after.
No,
tired.
that's kind of rough too. Oh my gosh, talk about archangels.
Yeah,
we are
that's
archangel
the third one.
Oh. Void
and Zoe
Glen down. Sorry.
That's gonna deal with this one. No, you're good. Keep it coming. I was just gonna say that Zoe has like this Void Rend, has some Disdainful Strokes, but you know, we thought that with those 2 Memory Deluges that she would be able to kind of just keep the cards flowing. That she's not actually managed to find that much card advantage going forward. And now we see her just with kind of this Mirex making 1/1s and an Incubate token. Arya, can Zoe, how much longer can Zoe go for, you know, without finding some big card advantage piece?
Honestly, not much longer. And we know there's another we know there's yet another Memory Deluge at the bottom of Zoe's library because it was bottomed off one of the previous ones. And I mean, if both players have a Mirex and one player's at a lower life total, that player's definitely behind. Pipermaru has answer after answer after answer for like the little tokens Zoe could put out. So not a great spot.
Well, here's ossification. Here's one of the answers for the little tokens. And we see this the march towards the poison victory again, starting for both players. By the way,
I love that this is what it's evolved into.
If both of these games come down to poison, I will be so happy. And also, I don't know, I'll give up my my divination business forever because I would not have been able to predict that in a million years.
I'm also so happy. I think Mirrex is a really sweet land. I am a big fan. I love the amount of decks that are able to play it as well. And so I'm excited that we're just seeing a bunch of mites slowly, can I say wiggle again? Wiggle their way. These definitely wiggle.
Okay.
You could say that the other things that I've said previously haven't wiggled. The mites definitely wiggle.
I'd agree the mites wiggle. I remember that clip I saw on the PD broadcast.
Oh, I loved that.
Actually, I think you'll find it was the Arena Championship broadcast.
Oh, you're so
Arya.
right.
And guess what time it is? It's 3 o'clock.
Oh, those line up very well against these 1/1 mites. Also, what's in our hand? Very sad.
Very sad for Zoe. Still just finding lands off the top. The mites are getting in, but they are not looking very mighty against the beasts on the other side of the battlefield. And that looks like it's going to be it. Zoe at 6 life, no answers to the 3/3s. Pipermaru untaps with the absolute horde of creatures. Just has to hit the big orange button. Here they come. And Beky, you're going to get your wish. Game number 3 coming up between these two players. Wow. Arya, tell us what happened in that game.
Well, what ultimately came down to was Zoe ran out of cards. What she wants to be doing in that matchup is running Pipermaru out of cards, but like well-timed early threats. Topiary Stomper really an all-star in this matchup as something that replaces itself with a land and also applies important pressure early in the game. Did a really good job pressuring Zoe, making Zoe spend interaction on it that could have been spent on stronger spells otherwise. So yeah, that's kind of exactly what Pipermaru wants to see happen. And I imagine any good start for her involves an early Topiary Stomp at this game as well.
All right, game number 3, deciding game here in our first semifinals of the evening. Very exciting stuff, and we're going to see Siphon Insight, Disdainful Stroke, and Wandering Emperor. The keep for Zoe at 6, and Piper on the draw with double Topiary Stomper and Herd Migration. Nice hands for both of our players here, Beky.
Yeah, and I mean, Arya said it, wants Topiary Stompers and has 2 in hand, but Siphon Insight was one of the ways that Zoe was able to take down game number 1, so a kind of exhilarating start here for both of these players.
And speaking of exhilarating starts, Siphon Insight already hitting the big prize there with Atraxa Grand Unifier stolen off the top.
And Stomper coming in. Unfortunately, the Wandering Emperor doesn't line up super well against the unlocked Stomper. We could stomp of our own. That could be kind of tempting. But it looks like we're finding this Archangel Wrath a little more tempting.
Yeah, Zoe is going to be taking that Archangel. Doesn't quite have the double white yet. Actually, it does have the double white because she's going to elect to play out that 8 Ganjo as a land.
Yeah. Archangel, very convenient because no red, no black, really not even double white needed thanks to the Siphon Insight mana washing.
Does it even fix the kicker cost?
I'm not entirely sure, actually.
What? A rules question that Arya isn't entirely sure about?
Judge?
Stop the press. Here comes the Wandering Emperor for Zoe Connell, and now she has the board presence at least front foot on the board presence for now, since those Topiary Stompers still at unable to block or attack mode. But of course, we know that Piper has the 7th land ready to go.
Yeah, and this is not an ideal spot for Zoe. No Memory Deluge has been drawn, so she's running out of cards, and you really want to be able to interact turn after turn after turn for like turns 6 through 10 against the ramp deck so that they don't resolve any powerful haymakers, and that doesn't seem super possible here.
Oh,
interesting.
We only attack
here. Going to be sending 1 at the face and 1 at Wandering Emperor. What do you think about that, Beky?
I think this is kind of interesting, especially since we have this Odawara in hand that I have to imagine Zoe kind of wanted to use on one of the Topiary Stompers to make sure that the Wandering Emperor stayed alive. But now we kind of just get to go for the trade, see what happens, and if it transpires, cool. Our Wandering Emperor stays on the field. But there is still Leyline Binding in hand, and thankfully we do have this Disdainful Stroke. Unfortunately, as Arya mentioned, it is kind of our piece de resistance, and now we don't have nearly as much in hand as we maybe would like to have. Thankfully, though, we have some things in the exile zone off of those Siphon Insights.
Siphon Insight has impressed me so much. I mean, not just in this particular match, which is where it's impressed me a lot, but just generally speaking over the last few months of Standard. Here is Leyline Binding to finally take down the Wandering Emperor thanks to getting rid of that Archangel. Oh my goodness, does that Archangel come back on Piper's side if the Leyline Binding gets hit?
It would, but I don't believe Piper has any ways to destroy her own enchantments, unfortunately.
Right, because you can't besage your own enchantments, as we see that beautiful negate swipe away the Herd Migration. And finally, Memory Deluge is here for Zoe, but she's going to be getting attracted down first in this deciding game. Wow.
It's kind of like a Memory Deluge.
On a stick?
On a stick. On a pretty impressive one. There's an Invasion of Zendikar and a Herd Migration in a hand for Piper, which are not going to do as much against the Atraxa as you maybe would like.
Yeah, and what a hit. Wondering, was that a binding?
Top.
Oh my goodness, what a find for Piper.
What a hit.
Leyline binding off the top, and Zoe unfortunately loses that Atraxa, but did find a Sunfall. So that is going to be at least be a way for her to not immediately die.
I was going to say, that's actually not too bad considering that Piper knew about the Sunfall too and still cast the Herd Migration.
Yeah, I mean, I think Piper, a little bit, wanting to just close out this game, force this Sunfall to be used. And now we're going to see Chromeherd Seedshark as well as that big Incubate token. And Pipermaru just finding Jetmir's Garden. And they use this Invasion of Zendikar to thin the deck out a bit first, Arya.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough spot for Pipermaru. That 6/6 token gonna close out the game really quickly. So she only really has 1 or 2 turns to find something that gets her back in this.
Yeah, here comes the attack. That's going to be 8 damage. Pipermaru down to 10 alive. Zoe has so many cards in hand from that Atraxa still. Piper can make a might. That does not block. Oh my god, it's a Tali off the top.
Whoa.
What?
All right, what's a Tali going to get us?
Okay. Wait, first of all, Zoe has a Memory Deluge. So let's see if Zoe finds the counterspell here. That's going to make a 4/4 Incubate token as well. No counterspell.
Okay.
But finds a Sunfall.
I'm glad we didn't find a counterspell. I do want to keep this game a little interesting. Let's see what Atali can get. Let's hope that this Atali is better than Zoe's Atali.
Oh my goodness. Well, that was a cursed Atali in more ways than one. Let's find out how Pipermaru is going to do. Oh, Memory Deluge and Chromeherd Seedshark. Those are some nice hits here for Piper.
Well, Deluge not quite that nice because no mana's been spent to cast it.
Yeah.
So it will not be drawing any cards.
Oh no.
Touch.
Wow. Who did I complain to about this card?
I
about Memory Deluge or Chromeherd Seedshark or
yeah, that's gotta be lethal, right?
Yeah, that's go for the throw down the Seedshark, animate some of those incubators, and that's more than lethal.
But Zoe has only 9 minutes left on the clock.
Only 9 minutes to find the lethal line. And let's see whether she does it. Here we go. Zoe Connell, go for the throat on Chromeherd Seedshark. Gonna get some Chromeherd Seedshark activations of her own and triggers, of course. And Pipermaru, you see that extending the GG's, excellent sportsmanship here at the VML always. And it's going to be Zoe Connell with Esper control that takes this one down against Pipermaru in a thrilling 3-game series. Wow. Beky, how are you feeling after that?
I mean, that's the deck that I kind of anticipated was going to take it down, but I mean, it looked rough for Zoe at a few points in that game, and I think Arya did a really good job of pointing out every single time that it felt like one player was kind of on the back foot and needed to find some way to kind of come back into it. But when you play a bunch of haymakers and you kind of steal even more haymakers from your opponent, I think the Siphon Insights really earn MVP of that game.
Arya, both players played so well. I was so impressed with the way that they thought through all of those lines.
Yeah, it was definitely a masterclass, but on by two people who clearly were very good at playing their decks. A lot of unintuitive choices, a lot of heads-up aggressive play from Pipermaru, recognizing that she needed to actually close out the game and apply pressure with the Stopia Stompers, like we saw game 2. And from Zoe, I mean, like, the matchup stuff, there's, like, the 5-color deck has, like, better top end that you have to beat, and you need, particularly game 1, your cut downs are bad, and she recognized that, played to her outs perfectly, so very deserved win.
Yeah, fantastic stuff there from both of them. Congrats to Zoe Connell. We're going to be seeing her a little bit later on in the grand finals tonight. And as for Pipermaru, if you are a fan of her play there, she will be back on your screens for the VML Championships, which is an awesome thing. It's the first time we are ever doing this because the top 8 from seasons 8, 9, and 10 are all invited to our end of year bonanza, which is happening on the weekend of 19th and 20th of August. And by the way, if you're a fan of this particular crew, we will all be there casting and bringing you coverage of the VML Championships, where for the first time we are going to be doing competitive draft here at the VML. And by the way, we have 2 Pro Tour invites to give away. No biggie.
It was all good things that you just said. All good things. All beautiful. So happy we're drafting.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be so great. And definitely haven't been trying to make this happen for 10 seasons now. So we'll see Pipermaru back here at the VML Championships, but for Zoe, her job is not done yet tonight. We'll be seeing her a little bit later on. Now, let's have a look at our second semifinals and bring up the bracket once again. Amanda Cossai, we saw Amanda earlier on in the quarterfinals with that awesome Dimir tempo deck, I think we decided to call it. And Amanda's going to be playing against BloodyMessJess. Jess, by the way, has been playing VML since maybe season 2, season 3. Took a little break, back this time around, straight into the top 4. And coming from division number 3, she's brought Esper control. And I also want to just give a massive shout out to Jess because she's playing from the UK and it is probably some ungodly hour over there.
Oh no. Right I don't envy that position at all.
No. Arya, any differences here between Jess's deck and the Esper list that we just saw from Zoe?
Yeah, so this is a more proactive Esper control deck. Insofar as this deck can never be proactive, there's like 2 more planeswalkers, some more threats to win the game with, and some different sideboard choices, such as like that 1 Hullbreaker horror for the more controlling decks. It'll be really interesting to see how that matches up if we see Jess in the finals. But if not, I'm still interested to see how this lines up against Dimir control, because those slightly more proactive threats maybe line up not so well against the extra interaction out of Dimir control, since it gives more targets for cut downs, more targets for go for the threats.
By the way, we've been like variously saying Dimir control, Dimir aggro, and Dimir tempo. So I hope that, all of our friends at home have
the only
been
Dimir
educated.
Deck.
I mean,
it's all Dimir. It's Dimir all the way down.
It's all Dimir to me.
I think that's one of the cooler parts about this deck, is that you can play whatever role depending on the matchup. Against the Esper Legends deck that we just saw, you're definitely more on the controlling role. Esper Legends has a better aggressive thing and has less guard advantage. But in this matchup, the Dimir deck's definitely the aggro and is looking to apply pressure backed up by counter spells.
All right, well, let's find out whether that is going to be happening as we go down hopefully to our second semi-finals of the evening. We're just going to give the players a couple of moments to get situated in the feature match area, which gives me the time to make the best joke I've thought of all evening so far. Do you think Amanda's going to be looking in Dimir and seeing and asking herself how she's going to be playing this game? I'm so happy.
Haiyue,
Yeah.
you're incredibly funny, but that was a stretch.
I'm glad Arya
Wow.
even found words to respond to that, because I had to.
That's just the goal of every cast, you know, to leave your coverage teammates speechless. That's how we roll here at the
Truly.
VML.
I mean, the other thing that is kind of leaving me speechless is I'm excited to see if this Soren the Mirthless comes into play. I'm excited about that card. There's also that March of Otherworldly Sorrow, which those are like two pretty big differences between the two Esper control decks that we've seen, and I'm excited to see if they get to kind of come onto the screen for us a little bit, because I'm always excited when you get to see like those little like kind of tech cards come into play and show their worth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Soren would have enjoyed the jokes. He does not seem like he has a sense of humor because he's mirthless. Get it? Okay, all right. Let's have a look at
that made me laugh a little bit
opening.
more. So you got a little bit of
okay.
pushback.
All right. We're gonna be watching from Amanda's point of view. We do apologize for the lack of pan cam from Jess because she is apparently playing on her phone as well as playing from the UK, which is, I mean, she is braver than I would be in
I was
this
going to say,
situation.
I had to play one of my matches on my iPad while I was on vacation this season, and there were a lot of mistakes that were made because of the difference in UI on those two things. So definitely something that I would be hesitant to do, but big props to Jess.
Well, you gotta assume that she is used to it for now. And then we're gonna see Amanda come out here on the play on turn number 3 with Liliana of the Veil, and putting Jess to the test, as it were, and Jess passes with that copy of Make Disappear.
Yeah.
It's Misery Shadow time, it looks like.
Yeah, the start not the most inspiring for Amanda. She really wants to be applying early pressure, but cheap threat plus counter spell. That's a good thing to have on a middle turn of the game.
Yeah, I mean that's tempo, right? There's no way that's not tempo. You can't. Here's the counter spell for the counter.
Yeah, I think most definitely here. You just need to apply pressure, and there's not really scary threats out of the Esper deck that you want to worry about too much.
Were you just apologizing generally? Because I accept.
Oh, I was just apologizing for the fact that tempo, we've asked several scientists and no one's been able to define tempo, so I cannot definitively answer your question.
If I may.
I'm imagining that
yeah,
go
tempo
ahead,
is
baby.
a very nebulous term amongst
tempo
Magic players.
is usually just, beats per minute.
Okay, all right. Let's put Phoebe back in the cage with all the other scientists.
No, it's dark in here. No.
We're trying to work out what tempo is. And Evolved Sleeper is going to come down for Amanda, who still has Go for the Throat and Shielded in hand. Arya, does Go for the Throat do anything at all?
In a word, no. It can kill Wandering Emperor tokens, it can kill Kaido tokens, it can kill Soren tokens, so it nominally has some effect, but it's never trading for a full card in this matchup.
And what were you excited about there, Beky?
Oh, it was a gas because BloodyMessJess missed a land drop, and then us being able to activate that Evolved Sleeper twice does mean that the shields are kind of down for the Shieldred to come in.
Gotcha. Here is Shieldred.
We're not even messing around with the fact that we maybe activate this Misery Shadow 5 times.
I want to see that happen, though.
I think that would be really fun, and I think is actually like one of the better parts about that card is that you can just be extremely aggressive with those activations, and there's the 5th mana source. And the
there,
Sunfall.
yeah, there's the Sunfall to go along with it. But Amanda finds Tenacious Underdog. It's going to be blitzing it straight away. And I love this, by the way. Just using it straight up for that blitz cost. Not going to go through the bother of getting it on the battlefield first. Gets to draw a card as well. And Jess is down to just 7 life from that attack. What can she do? No land yet again. And this Underdog is going to be a bit of a problem, right, Arya?
Yeah, I mean, just as a little bit of time at least, and Wandering Emperor could be scary. Actually, if we saw Wandering Emperor, I wouldn't be wholly surprised to see Amanda target that underdog with her own go for the threat.
Yeah, I like that. I
Oh,
like that a
okay.
lot, actually.
All right. Here's
Ooh.
Memory Deluge.
I mean, I guess when you're down to this few cards in hand, that does make sense, and this is like your most flexible turn before you're really in a rough life total spot.
Yeah, it's a disciplined play for sure. I mean, BloodyMessJess could have animated her incubator and block with it, but I think this is definitely correct to use all your mana as efficiently as possible.
Some life gain.
Yeah, here is the Celestus. And that every time it has from day to night now, there will be one life gained for BloodyMessJess. So maybe
when you're at 4, you
starting
take one
to
life.
kind of, yeah, every single point matters. The people who say, you know, your life total doesn't matter have not been at 4 as the control deck against aggro. That's for sure.
We're slowly like amassing ways to just like very easily deal with this animated 2/2 should it ever become a thing, and I kind of like just continuously blitzing. Tenacious Underdog seems so good right now.
Yeah, it's just so annoying coming back from the graveyard every turn, being able to get in, and Jess is going to probably go for that block that we were talking about this time. And Incubator Token jumping in, wants to jump in front, but doesn't even get a chance to.
Nope. So one of the few uses for the cut down.
This is really good for Amanda because she gets to get just to the point where Board Wipe's not doing much, Shieldred could be lethal if it's drawn, and the Tenacious Underdog is threatening lethal in combat. So not a lot of ways out for her.
Let's have a look at Jess's list. So Make Disappear gets to eat up that Misery Shadow, which is something for Jess. Is there anything in the deck? There's something like a Wandering Emperor to get the Underdog, but Amanda does have, as you say, the Go for the Throat and an Otawara. Back over to Amanda now, and Jess needs to have something this turn. Those Murex Might tokens, mighty as they are, cannot block.
Mighty as they are? I don't know if you meant that one or not.
Oh, I don't.
It still hurt me.
I like to keep people guessing.
Right.
But if they're Arya, obviously those people guess very quickly. But, you know, can't really get one past her. There is some things happening here, so let's find out what it is.
What is 4
This
mana?
looks like a
is this
March?
March?
Oh.
Okay.
That would
And
be pretty
you
good
can
because it gains us
overpay.
life too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otawara pretty important here as a way to make the March fizzle that can't even be counted.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty
Wow.
big.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so March of Retrosaurus is X5. So that's threatening to gain 5 life for Jess. And Amanda has the Otawara, as you say, that's not counterable. Thinking about the Go for the Throat.
It's a complicated choice because using the Otawara means giving up the Otawara and giving up the card off the Underdog dying this turn because it gets returned to hand instead. So tough choice between that and Go for the Throat, which is fairly likely to get counted.
Here's Go for the Throat. Does not get counted, but Jess does live another turn. Oh, and that's shielded off the top for Amanda.
Yeah, I kind of like this. Maybe feels like the riskier play, as Arya was saying, but holding the Otawara mentionably because it is uncounterable for a later turn where we would be threatening lethal. It kind of is risky either way, and I understand why somebody would go for either one. But your threats in that position are like a make disappear, which you do have the 2 mana to account for. And I don't recall how many negates BloodyMessJess's deck was playing main, but the other Esper control list we saw was playing no negates main.
And one of the advantages of keeping Otawara in hand here is that deck lists are open. Amanda knows that one of the ways Jess's deck actually wins the game is Siphon Insight. It's that and Wandering Emperor. And knowing that Siphon Insight will happen at some point and something like a Shieldred might be taken is a lot of incentive to hold Otawara to bounce the stolen thing to your own hand.
Ooh. Is an Evolved Sleeper returning it? Yeah.
Is it returning Whippy Bobbity Yep to the hand? Is it worth wriggling back to
Yes. Yes.
the hand?
You said it better than I possibly could.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Let's find out at least here from Amanda. It's going to be blitzing the Tenacious Underdog to start with. Shieldred still in hand. Make the Sphere in hand as well. And Jess at least has that blocker for the Evolved Sleeper. I was thinking, though, by the way, that if Jess uses Siphon Insight and hits something like a Graveyard Trespasser, that could potentially be an answer. But he's Shieldred.
And Shieldred is pretty convenient because those 2 life from Tenacious Underdog are really starting to add up. You really don't want it to be like end of turn Wandering Emperor, pump the creature, pump it again, getting with some mites and steal the game. So getting to the point where you're drawing a card off blitzing that Underdog, really nice for Amanda. Not to mention, well, the fact that her opponent's at 4, so Shieldred does demand an answer this turn.
Ooh.
Okay, Shieldred's demanding an answer this turn. There's an upkeep stop. Is there an answer? There is. There's go for the throat on the Shieldred. No Otawara available for Amanda, so Jess survives another threat, clinging on into this game number 1. I mean, this is real. You know, Amanda's the one with the underdog, but Jess certainly showing how tenacious she is. And I wonder what she took off that second Siphon Insight. Back over to Amanda.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a removal spell here of some sort.
Underdog getting in.
Ooh.
Just gonna take it.
Holden.
Here's Kaito.
I think just recognizes that this is a limited opportunity to try and resolve it. Please.
Yeah, and is not going to get the option. Make disappear takes care of that. Kaito comes down. Can go up to just draw a card. Can make a 1/1 that's unblockable. Goes for the draw. Oh, and that's another Shieldred.
Yeah, and
some
really disciplined play from Amanda there. I mean, it's tempting, right, when your opponent's at 2 to make a 1/1, but recognizing that if there's card advantage, she's winning a long game, really, really smart play.
I mean, BloodyMessJess holding on at 3 life. Oh my goodness, that's another Shieldred for Amanda. Surely one of these Shieldreds has got to spell the end of this game number 1, but Jess has done a great job of holding on it. Let's find out. Amanda can blitz the underdog this turn. Jess has 2 cards unknown plus the 1 from the Siphon Insight. And let's see what they are. As you say, Arya, the blitz cost is kind of adding up. Amanda's done a lot more damage to her own life total than Jess could possibly have hoped to have achieved in this time frame.
Oh, it's too true. I think there's only been 2 life that wasn't from the blitz cost. Sorry, Arya.
I think in this spot, Amanda, well, really benefiting from not having downticked the Kaido last turn, has the extra card to show for it. And now, if she downticks the Kaido this turn, the one will be safe from removal for immediately. And then when she goes to cast Shieldred, she'll have a 1/1 to sacrifice to let her actually be able to casualty the make disappear.
How about Ertai hitting the tenacious underdog? That's going to give Amanda another 2 cards, thanks to the death trigger on the underdog and Ertai's own trigger. Still has the Shieldred to play out. Jess, with 2 cards left in hand. The Ertai was the card that was stolen from Siphon Insight. Is there an answer for
Oh, okay.
Shieldred?
I keep being like,
Beky, you
what
were
can happen?
anticipating something. Okay, you're just on the edge of your seat.
I am.
Right there with the audience, just kind of, breathing heavily. Siphon Insight going in for the double dip here. And Amanda is not going to counter that second one. Shieldred hits the battlefield. And as you say, Arya, making the 1/1 for that casualty cost. Does Jess have anything here in the upkeep? Well, to gain a life?
If she doesn't have something, she actually would lose to the Celestis drawing an extra card.
Oh, but she did have something. It was a go for the throat, and that means that Shieldred goes down. Jess goes up to 4. Amanda has another Shieldred. I cannot believe how long Jess has hung on in this game.
Jess is a rock climber. Jess knows all about holding on.
Oh, that grip strength. Just
like, it's showing in Magic too.
Yeah, you can tell. Ertai does have the option of attacking Kaito, but it's going to be staying back on the blocks.
Yeah.
Is there a line for lethal here, Arya?
For Amanda, not immediately. I think, I mean, it's really hard to find lethal through a blocker and not having a removal, and like that blocker, if interacted with, giving you another piece of interaction. So I think it's going to be pretty hard to actually kill Jess here. There's some chance of finding something off the Kaido loot, so it's hard to have enough information to say whether there's going to be lethal this turn.
All right. Amanda's thinking through the options, which very smart, very sensible to do at this stage with so much on the line here. Gonna go for that blitz and tenacious underdog to start with.
I mean, there's just so many things in Amanda's hand too that, like, even if there's an answer in Jess's hand, we also have to have an answer to one of the other things that's in Amanda's hand after this combat. The Celestis has also like helped a lot.
Yeah, Jess would be super dead without that Celestis, for sure. It's doing so much work. Ertai jumps in front of underdog. Jess goes down to 3. Here's another question that Amanda is asking is, do you have something for this Shieldred? Memory Deluge time.
Yeah.
Oh, and
I know we've paid a lot of attention to Jess's life total, but Amanda at 6 means something like a Wandering Emperor into a Go for the Throat could be really scary.
Oh.
Like you said, Beky, I don't think answering every card in Amanda's hand is really going to lead to victory for Jess. There's just so many cards behind, but somehow managing to steal a win by getting surprise lethal may be a route to victory.
Okay. All right. I mean, we've seen some pretty insane lethals already on the stream today. Let's see whether Jess can pull off another unexpected lethal, shall we say. Amanda does get to keep this Shieldred, though, thanks to the Make Disappear. And Jess is going to draw. Does not have an answer to Shieldred in the upkeep. Has a Memory Deluge in hand. really, really needs to have something right here, right now. Otawara in hand for Amanda cannot be channeled with not enough cost reduction on the board. What does Jess have access to in hand?
I think in this spot, it's fairly safe to assume that just doesn't have a go for the throat or something of the sort.
Oh, yeah. Let's choose to not draw.
Yeah. So that's just, luckily it's a May for Jess. So does not have to eat the 2 from Shieldred. Just gets to gain that 1 life. But Memory Deluge really kind of representing Jess's last hope here. And Amanda's got to think about whether to blitz this underdog or not, Arya.
Yeah, and in this spot, I think Amanda pretty safe to blitz this underdog. There's just so many different ways she's threatening lethal. She has interaction for a Wandering Emperor by bouncing her own creature. She has the ability to talk a Numa and get back another Shieldred if this one gets killed. So hard to imagine a hand for BloodyMessJess that gets her out of this.
Here's that Memory Deluge. Step 1. I think Jess has enough mana to activate Celestus to gain a life.
It's only sorcery
Great.
speed, though.
Oh, it's sorcery speed. Wow, they should really let you do that at instant speed. Arya, why won't you let us have any fun?
Well, that
Because
was
it
before my
changes
time,
night
so
to
I can't
day,
answer
and
for
instant
this.
speed is OP.
Okay, what about this huge
Oh.
March of Wretched Sorrow? That, what's that gonna do here? I mean, Amanda has the Otawara. It's gonna use Hakanuma first.
Oh, and that's gonna get the Urtai back that Jess stole from her earlier off Siphon Insight.
Oh. I'd forgotten that was there.
And Urtai forces another draw.
Oh,
Which-
that's not a May. Oh my
Gross.
goodness. And that's it!
Gross.
BloodyMessJess just scoops it up. Wow, finding a line there for Amanda, getting that Urtai, forcing that last bit of damage through with Shieldred as we go to the sideboard. And Amanda really looking like she's in a great spot with her deck choice for the evening. That looked pretty dominant from Dimir.
Yeah, definitely a good matchup for Dimir. And I mean, if you can win that game 1 where you've got those useless go for the throats and cutdowns, then she's definitely in good shape for that game 2 where she gets to modern stuff like Transmogrant, which is really hard for the Esper deck to answer and no longer has dead cards.
Yeah, it looks like, as you say, that spot removal hitting the side, shaving a couple of Shieldreds as well, getting Transmogrant in, getting some of that hand disruption in. And Amanda just needing one more game now, Beky, to advance to the finals where she would be facing Zoe, who's also on Esper control. And just needing to do the reverse sweep here. What do you think, Beky?
I just remembered also that Jess just played that whole game on her phone. And I'm actually so floored. So if anybody can do it, like, Jess has my respect regardless of how this game ends up. And I mean, we saw just how long Jess held on in that game, and Arya laid out ways that Jess did have the opportunity to kind of steal a win. I think that this is closer than that kind of felt. It felt like Amanda was on top of it for that whole game, but there were some moments where I think if Jess just had a little bit of a luckier draw potentially, that game could have, well, I mean, we had a lot of lucky draws there that really kept Jess in the game, but I don't know. I'm very excited for this game number 2, especially now that we have a little bit of sideboarding. This hand for Amanda seems a little rough. Those Mirexes, really good cards, but we need our black mana to go a little bit further than one turn.
Yeah, it's
okay, and Amanda's gonna keep it. So, geez, trusting. I mean, this is pretty insane stuff here. Not insane in that way, like insane as in my mind is blown because I was about to go on a diatribe about how much I dislike Mirex and think that it's definitely on the tired side and not on the wired side.
What?
I mean, it's just so meh, you know? It's like,
why would you hurt me like this?
like, it doesn't even make mana for this make disappear, for example. And if I was Sleeper, it's just a 1/1 right now.
I mean, I was
for
a fan
Amanda.
of Crumbling Vestige, so needless to say, I'm also kind of a fan of Mirex because it's just a better Crumbling Vestige, but
I think I'm just too much of a fan of ambitious mana bases where I need to cast cards that have a lot of different pips in. And Mirex doesn't really gel with that so much. Let's see what Jess has here in response. It's March of Regisaur. This time it gets to take out the Evolved Sleeper.
But Haiyue, Mirex makes mana of any color. It can let you cast all your weird off-color cards.
oh, the Dark
No,
Slick
it does
Shore is
not,
coming at
Arya.
exactly the right moment.
Yeah, it's a nice Dark Six Shores. It would have been better if either of those Mirexes were Dark Six Shores before.
What? We drew this Dark Slick Shore's perfect time. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Everything was
Well,
great. This was a plan from the beginning.
Yeah, never having mana for the make disappear. Great plan there from Arya. But Amanda is going to get to have a look at BloodyMessJess's hand. And it's a nice one. Double Deluge plus Go for the Throat plus March. And Jess, I think, has that 4th mana as well. So everything online here for Jess. And Amanda with a lot of double black cards in hand and no second black source.
Yeah, Trespasser lining up pretty well here, though. Being able to curve Duress into Trespasser, Exile, Memory Deluge is really, really nice for Amanda because BloodyMessJess's hand really leans on Memory Deluge for card advantage.
Look at this. Amanda actually going to pass the turn and just use that make disappear to cut off Memory Deluge instead of developing something like a Graveyard Trespasser out. And Arya, what does that tell you about Amanda's game plan?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we know there's no other card advantage. Unless it was a counterspell top deck, there's no counterspell either. So it makes sense to just get rid of those Memory Delusions because with 2 Trespassers, you're going to be able to exile them at some point before they can be cast. So I'm not particularly in a rush to do that in Amanda's spot.
And here is the first one, Trespasser hitting one of those Memory Deluges.
Nom 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 nom.
Just delicious.
It had to be done at least once.
Just like, what is the Trespasser even eating? It's just a bunch of like other people's memories. And he's like,
that sounds kind of metal though.
That is
Not
pretty
gonna
metal.
lie.
And here is finally that second black source for Amanda. And now all of these cards turned online. Graveyard Glutton, pretty big threat on the battlefield right now.
Yeah, he's gonna pull out that Go for the Throat and force a discard, which does mean that something that Jess and the control deck struggled with last time are continuing to be struggles in this game as well, which is keeping cards in hand.
All right, Beky, here's a controversial one. Graveyard Trespasser, tired or wired?
What? That card is insane! But it is tired, but it is a very good card.
I love Graveyard Trespasser. I'm a huge Graveyard Trespasser.
That card is nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
I think it's just one of those cards that I think everyone's like, yeah, I need a 3-drop, so I'll play this card. But it actually just like kind of does a little bit of everything. Like it's strong.
It's doing a great job here.
Yeah, it's difficult to get rid of. It attacks the graveyard. Like, I think that it's tired, but it also might be one of my favorite cards to be printed in a long time. So do with that information what you will. Sometimes you just have to like cards that you also don't like playing against.
I certainly like this card, and I certainly don't like playing against it, so I get entirely what you mean. As we see Amanda get in now with the Graveyard Glutton. Jess is at 12, gonna take the hit down to 8, and it is a pretty major threat on the battlefield. Jess with just 2 cards in hand, and Liliana of the Veil is gonna be hoping to bring that total down quite a lot. She ticks up, and we've not seen a lot of Liliana of the Veil in this particular go-through standard, but certainly very annoying every time she is here. Here is the land drop from Jess, just one card in hand. Oh, and it's a farewell.
But it doesn't answer Liliana. I mean, I guess we have no cards left in hand, so it doesn't matter if we leave Liliana on the field, but that's rough though.
You say that, but Liliana's slowly ticking up towards ultimate. I mean, at this point, that's only 2 turns away.
Fair.
And I don't think Jess could live with losing half her lands.
That's true. And as you mentioned, now we're at 6. And that last card in hand, let's not... well...
Okay. And also, we're bouncing the Shieldred. I mean...
Keeps us alive for a turn.
Needing to not die. That does make sense, but Liliana is ticking up to ultimate, as you say. Not sure that is going to be necessary, and that's going to do it. Amanda Cossai with Dimir tempo taking down our second semifinal against BloodyMessJess on Esper control. Wow, that was some really nice stuff there from the Dimir deck. Beky, I'm so impressed.
I think it was a great metagame call. I mean, you mentioned it. We also haven't seen a lot of Liliana, but you look at these 5-color ramp decks and you look at the Esper control decks, and Liliana is not something that they want to play against. And that's something that we at least have 2 copies of to go against some of these more difficult, very popular decks in the format right now. So I'm kind of just very excited about how this has lined up for this metagame choice.
Yeah, it's really an excellent choice from Amanda. Just played it really well too. I mean, just putting on a clinic match after match, and like how to pilot against really a variety of different decks. I mean, Esper Legends and Esper Control pretty far on different ends of the spectrum in terms of how you want to play against them. And Amanda really managed to navigate those matches very well.
Yeah, I'm super impressed, as you say, with the way that she navigated them, knew about, really, I think, knew at all times what the game plan was, which sounds basic, but is not. Like a lot of players, myself included, and I'm sure a lot of people sympathize with this, is like a lot of the time you're playing and you're just kind of doing things that you can do or that you want to do, I guess. But when you see great players play, something that really stands out is how they know exactly how they're going to win the game. And that is something that we've definitely seen on display from Amanda. So we have our finalists. Let's have a look at the bracket once again. After we had those 2 semi-finals. We're going to see Zoe and Amanda compete for the title of the friends we made along the way. Beky, what do you think of this matchup?
Once again, I kind of think that Amanda has just picked a really good deck for what she has had to play against. I think that this is kind of leaning in the Dimir aggro tempo, whatever you want to call its favor. And I'm just so extremely excited to continue to watch this Dimir aggro deck play, because it's been a treat. I mean, all of these matches have been a treat too, but
definitely,
I think there's something beautiful to be said about somebody picking up a deck that you maybe wouldn't have expected, and then just being like, oh, I love seeing that this card is a part of it and something that we're bringing back because it's for this matchup, and like watching that reward slowly come to fruition.
Yeah, that is very satisfying indeed to watch. Now, as for Zoe, Arya, she'll have certainly been watching that match that Amanda had against Jess. Do you think that that gives her an advantage at all, like some insight into what the game plan is?
Definitely. I mean, she's a strong player, so she's gonna be prepared for what Amanda's doing. And I mean, she gets to be on the play game one, I believe, because she's a higher seed. And on top of that, she gets to have Amanda has a bunch of dead gut downs and go for the throats game one that had some targets against Jess's deck, but fewer targets against Zoe's build of Esper Control. So definitely looking to leverage the game one advantage, but with being on the play and having a slightly better matchup then. So I would not count Zoe out, but I have to agree with Beky that I would favor Amanda with the Dimir deck really being looking to target these Esper control decks almost.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot wait to find out what's going to happen, because these are 2 excellent players. We've been seeing both of them really playing some great Magic tonight, really at the highest levels. Amanda all the way through from the quarterfinals, which I'm so glad that we watched Amanda's quarterfinals, by the way, because she's so sweet. Really, this Dimir deck, the story of the evening. Let's see whether Zoe and her Esper controllers can do what previous decks were unable to do and overcome the Dimir aggro list. I'm just going to find out quickly if the players are ready for our final match of the evening. The grand finals here of season 10 of the VML. Still sounds surreal every time I say it. Sponsored, of course, by Wizards of the Coast. And good luck, high five. And Beky, Arya, it's a pleasure to be doing this with the two of you.
I'm so excited.
Certainly
Let's go.
Certainly fit the bill of the friends we made along the way, I think.
Aww, so true.
And let's do it. Let's find out who is going to be taking away the title of champion of VML season 10. We're going to be watching from Amanda's point of view. We have Zoe on the upper half of the screen. Amanda, as you see that, going on the draw because Zoe, the higher seed in the playoff segment. And this hand, make disappear, cut down, shieldred. Arya, what do you think?
I'm not excited to keep that. You really want early creatures. You really don't want to see that cut down, so it's already a mulligan to 6. So I agree with Amanda's decision to mulligan that.
And it looks like it's paying off. Sleeper, Double Trespasser, and Edict. All of pretty annoying things for the control deck to deal with. As we have a look at what Zoe's working with. I think that's Duress, Make Disappear, and Farewell there, Beky. That's not a happy Duress.
Yeah, certainly not. And I also really like Amanda's decision to just, this Shieldred's Edict probably could come in handy, but also probably not. So we're just not going to worry about it. I also like a crazy draw to get this Make Disappear as well. I mean, you love being able to just have like threat of activation off of something like this Evolved Sleeper and have the Make Disappear as backup. So all good things kind of coming to both of these players so far. And I mean, good calls on both of them for what they've done. And Zoe also getting rewarded for, I mean, I guess we had to play with the Rafine's Tower first, but hey, holding this Duress until this point, coming in handy.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Really heads up played, not just jam it on turn 1, knowing that Liliana is easily the scariest thing Amanda could be doing. So make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're just saving the Duress for the key turn and still has that Make Disappear available. Amanda does have the Evolved Sleeper down on the battlefield. It's a 2-2 right now. It's threatening to get bigger. And Zoe knows about the Double Trespasser, really wanting to make sure that she can avoid having this hit the battlefield if at all possible.
Easy enough. Not having to worry. I mean, luckily, Evolved Sleeper is one of the things that has been able to stay. Because now we are at the point where we could activate it and draw a card, which is, or no, sorry, we have 2 more places before we have to get to that point. My Evolved Sleeper usually doesn't live this long. I usually am just like, oh, this is about to draw me a card, and then it never actually does. So I'm forgive
You're just
me.
getting excited. You're just getting excited.
Like,
you just
is it finally gonna happen?
Yeah, and it may happen. It may happen, but not quite yet for Amanda. And she's got to really think about how and what order to deploy these threats in Arya.
Yeah, and something we might even see with the Mirax being played out this turn, I wouldn't be surprised if Amanda just passes. I mean, Zoe quite likely holding up a counter spell, so reasonable to not play into that. And just generating value, forcing a board wipe to wipe away these tokens, puts Amanda in a really good spot.
Okay, Amanda does pass the turn, as you say. Pretty nice spot to be in. And Zoe picks up Go for the Throat, which is pretty sweet. Nice answer to one of these threats. And she might even fire it off right here.
Not the Evolved Sleeper that hasn't drawn us a card.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one
day. You'll get
that
your wish
is not
fulfilled.
Today.
Yeah, it is not this day. I've got Aragorn on the brain, okay? I know I always have Aragorn on the brain, but I especially have Aragorn on the brain because of Lord of the Rings.
You single-handedly made the Lord of the Rings pre-release that much more fun for me because you were so excited about the set coming out.
Oh, yeah.
I like watched the movies when I was 8, but like I'm not like a Lord of the Rings fan. And so it was fun to see like somebody be so excited about all of the like interactions and the cards and
Yeah, I
like
mean,
kind of walk
it's
me
just
through it.
I just live for that, you know? All those years of reading all night under the covers and learning to write Elvish as a kid, it's just finally coming in handy.
See, I was just
Amanda,
playing Pokemon under the covers as a kid.
well, to each their own, Becky.
Yeah, it's true.
And as for Amanda, it's going to be the attack in. This is 4 damage coming across. Misery Shadow, nice scalable threat. Just thinking about whether to pump it even more.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision because this is an opportunity to resolve something without a counterspell. But in Amanda's spot, I really like passing here because, I mean, Zoe doesn't have threats of her own that Amanda's going to fall behind to. And forcing a board wipe on just tokens in a Misery Shadow, really, really powerful.
Yeah, Amanda is playing so well, just doing all the right things against these Esper playing, not really overcommitting to the board, forcing the control players to really evaluate how threatening everything is and how much they need to use these sweepers. Now, if you're in Zoe, see Arya, what are your considerations? How are you getting out of this?
It's a tough spot for sure. I think the way Zoe gets out of this is really memory deluge, getting a bunch of cards, finding a wandering emperor, and then using that to punish Amanda for taking it slow and not playing to the board very much. Because there's really not much else in Zoe's deck that fills that role.
Shield's Edict is going to take care of that Misery Shadow, and we're going to see Amanda coming across with these Mites Zoe up to 4 poison, down to 8 life. And we're once again faced with the possibility of the poison kill.
I was just about to ask, how are you feeling about Mirex now?
Well, I've looked in the Mirex and I'm
Very well.
saved with the callback. Memory Deluge for Zoe. Arya, you were talking about this Memory Deluge being pretty key here. What is Zoe looking for?
Well, at this point, since Amanda played out a threat, isn't able to activate Mirex this turn, what I really want to do in Zoe's spot is just wipe the board and then run over Amanda after, ideally.
Step 1, wipe the board. Looks like that's certainly going to be happening. Probably don't want to exile the graveyards this time.
No, but you can exile creatures and artifacts to double exile those mites.
Yeah, just make sure they're extra dead. Well, extra exiled, I guess.
Extra exiled.
Extra?
Yeah.
Exiled?
I was trying to get that to work in my mouth, but it didn't. What a weird way of saying things. I regret that immensely. This always happens on these final streams because we're just going, all these live matches and
I was going to say, and also our players are, in the finals and taking so long to decide and think through their plays. How dare they when we're just trying to make jokes and then fumble them ourselves?
Yeah, we don't need any help fumbling the jokes. Here's Wandering Emperor. Wait, what is happening? Is this Wandering Emperor in upkeep? Okay, Wandering Emperor in the upkeep.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart play from Zoe. The Emperor is almost bait. There's a second Emperor, so this one sticking around long term doesn't matter that much. And by tapping low, Zoe makes it more likely that Amanda plays to the board and exposes herself to a board wipe.
Oh, that's so smart. Just trying to get Amanda to use counters if she has them, or play more creatures out. Wandering Emperor at least gets to take care of Misery's Shadow while the Mites go and take her down. Zoe staying at a nice healthy 10. Amanda evolves Sleeper first of all. Oh, to test things, the waters that Zoe does have the mate disappear. Wow, both players just playing so cautiously.
I wouldn't even play any further. We've got the Murex activation. I like this a lot. You mentioned testing the waters, but we're like really testing it.
Yeah, just dipping a toe in. Dipping an evolved sleeper in.
Dipping my broken toe in.
Oh my goodness.
It actually sounds really nice. It's really warm. I'd love some like ice water. It's surprisingly difficult to ice a toe. Just one toe and not like freeze the rest of your foot.
Today I learned, I suppose.
Okay.
That's maybe how this feels, trying to run all your creatures out onto the board when you're worried inevitably about some kind of board wipe. How do I just one toe and not all of my creatures, you know?
Well, all of the creatures are down now. Graveyard Trespasser and Tenacious Underdog. Zoe having fired off the second farewell. And, you know, looking at the list, there are 3 Sunfalls, but I think there are only 2 farewells across the 75 for Zoe, and Amanda, of course, is going to be aware of that. So no Sunfall in hand for Zoe. Does have Wandering Emperor ×2 plus Void Rend, but facing down a huge attack force now. Underdog plus Glutton plus the Might. This Wandering Emperor's got to do a lot of work, Arya.
Yeah, I think at this point it's, again, getting pretty close to find another board wipe or bust. I think the best case scenario for Zoe is she down-decks the Wandering Emperor on the Underdog, gains some life, prevents that source recurring card advantage, and then counters the Shieldred. That could still leave her in this. But if Amanda plays it slower, maybe plays out the Liliana, then we could see Zoe in some trouble.
Okay, here was step 1. Get rid of that Tenacious Underdog forever. Wandering Emperor is at 1. Zoe down to 4 life, up to 6 poison. Make disappear ready. Amanda has the option of Shieldred or Liliana. Oh, nearly went for it. And it's just gonna pass a turn with Murex up. This is so exciting.
Yeah, I really like that play from Amanda, but at this point, it looks like Zoe might have a chance of getting back into this. She can Void Rend that Graveyard Trespasser, so that's not a huge issue anymore. Or hit it with Wandering Emperor, really, either way works. And then she has a counterspell for Shieldred, so I'm starting to like her chances.
Okay, all right. Let's see whether Zoe survives to stabilize this position. I mean, both players really have been playing incredibly well. Go for the throat, the draw for Amanda. And Zoe thinking about whether to use Casualty to take this blocker off the battlefield and counter Liliana. What do you think, Beky?
This has got to be kind of a tough decision, but it might just end up being the most that we can do, because if that Liliana gets to sit on the playing field, we just slowly get what good cards we have in our hand torn apart. And we do have this Void Rend to answer this Graveyard Glutton. So we're in a pretty okay spot, but also we do still need another like kind of heater of a draw to kind of keep us in this when we know that Amanda has this Shieldred in hand.
Okay, so it looks like Zoe's not going to let this Graveyard Glutton even get that activation. That trigger. Sorry. Arya, go ahead.
And that's actually a really smart play from her. It's tempting here to play out the Wandering Emperor, let the Graveyard Glutton drain for 2, and then down tick on it, discarding the Rafine's Tower and hold the answer for it. But in this spot, had Zoe done that, Amanda would have been able to go for the throat her own Graveyard Trespasser in response and have exactly lethal. So Zoe very much rewarded for her smart play.
Oof, Urtai the draw for Amanda. And that is huge.
Yep.
That is huge, as the Wandering Emperor is going to be countered by this Urtai. I mean, Zoe does get to draw a card. So there could be an answer in the card drawn of Ertai. What is it? It's go for the threat. That does not kill the mites. Zoe has to cycle again. Is there
Oh.
anything for one
Cut down?
mana? Surely not. No cut down. That's gonna do it. And Amanda Cossai is gonna go a game up in our grand finals. Wow.
Wow. The draws from both of these players. I mean, it's amazing how close of games we're seeing. I don't think we've seen like a dud game yet.
Yeah, and I mean, Haiyue, you talked about wanting to see another poison victory on stream. Does that count? Zoe got reduced to exactly 0 life and exactly 10 poison.
It half counts.
Judge, which one applies first?
Oh, that's a good judge question.
The poison
That's
or the
a great
life
judge
loss?
question.
I'd imagine both of them apply simultaneously since you lose to both of them because of state-based effects. Now I'm no judge, so don't take my word on it.
Hold up, I could get an answer to this if we can wait 2 seconds.
Are we gonna bring Sam on?
I mean, if we want, I could go ask him, but also, I'll stay. We don't need to know an answer to this.
We don't.
Either way.
Yeah. It's how about both? How about instead of half, we'll go both? It counts twice. Wait.
Cool. I love it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Double dead. All right. Game number 2 now. For these two players, Amanda with the insane smart choice of Dimir Aggro coming into this top 8, really showing just why this deck was a great pick for this part of the tournament, up against Zoe Connell, who's been playing beautiful magic, so tight, so thinking of all of the angles. Let's see what happens here in this game. Number 2, Amanda finds a Shipwreck Marsh, which is a blue source, and looking at a nice hand of Make Disappear, Sleeper, Trespasser, and Liliana of the Veil. Zoe's hand is pretty nice too. Lots of answers, plus Shieldred.
Yeah. A little awkward that there's no second white for that temporary lockdown. If there had been, then maybe Zoe could have waited a turn, tried to get a 2-for-1, but as it stands, not ideal.
Ooh, and we still didn't draw another white source. That's rough. Thankfully, we do have this negate.
Too. Yeah, does have that beautiful negate. Evolve Sleeper, maybe Beky, maybe we'll get. Oh, never mind. It's gonna be Liliana. That's gonna be countered by the negate. Zoe would be very pleased to be able to get out of having to deal with Liliana on the board, and manages to land this Shieldred. Amanda does not have an answer to this Shieldred right now. Arya, is this Shieldred just going to dominate this game?
You know, it very well might. I mean, Amanda's down on answers because she's playing against a control deck, so not a lot of outs to that Shieldred, and Zoe's deck full of counter spells that she could draw to keep that Shieldred protected, so yeah, I would say she's in a really good spot here.
Yeah, Shieldred coming out of the sideboard. Just the 2 copies in this slide there. And as you say, not really a lot of answer targets for the removal. So nice move bringing that one in. Here is the second white source for that temporary lockdown, but not doing a ton here against Amanda's board.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see it spent just to get rid of that Sleeper. The Sleeper can draw cards. The Sleeper can block Shieldred by getting Depth Touch, so it's kind of the only thing that matters on this board, and making sure the Trespasser doesn't flip is also quite valuable to Zoe.
Okay. Well, Zoe is going to deploy that temporary lockdown. Shieldred just keeps doing her thing, and Amanda, with 2 copies of Make Disappear, suddenly looking like there's not a lot going on. Beky, what is she looking to do? How is she going to get out of this situation?
We do have the Takanuma in hand that could get us back this Liliana. And that would be kind of what I would be looking to do. And we have like the Make Disappear mana as backup already now as well. So that would kind of be my kind of where my nose would be sniffing at this point in the game. But this Shieldred is not going to go down without a fight, and not go down without taking quite a bit of the life total of Amanda.
Shieldred is going to keep getting in. Amanda down to 9 lives. Zoe does not have very much going on, just lands in hand. So Amanda is going to get to really use this Takanuma and get whatever she wants back and be able to deploy it.
Yeah, and this Takanuma answering Shieldred is not the prettiest, but I still quite like Amanda's spot here just because Zoe has nothing going on.
Yeah, what a
And
draw,
Liliana
too.
the Veil. Yeah, jeez. Liliana gonna come down, get rid of Zoe's Shieldred, and Amanda found a Shieldred of her own. She is down at 7 life, so a little bit precarious on the life total. Zoe just finds a Void Rend for the turn.
I mean, that Void Rend's still going to be pretty annoying if we don't, or if we didn't have this Liliana of the Veil to kind of force a play. And I mean, shields down for Shieldred once again.
Shields down for Shieldred. Sounds like, a slogan.
It does.
Like, oh, how about Memory Deluge? That does not trigger Shieldred.
Find us an answer.
Yeah, and that's pretty close to the perfect draw. I would have said that what Zoe really needs here is a deluge, and if she's able to find answers off this, she's probably back ahead.
Let's find out. Memory Deluge, looking at the top of Zoe's library, it's Sunfall and Dissipate. No double blue to cast that Dissipate. Oh, and Duress off the top for Amanda. What a hit!
Oh, no Sunfall for you. Oh, yeah, not having the blue for that
double
Dissipate
blue.
hurting. Yeah.
Yeah, just really unfortunate there for Zoe. Does have the Memory Deluge in the graveyard to go for 7 this turn. Amanda has the Make Disappear though. And Zoe's really in a tight spot now, Arya.
Yeah, it's gonna be top of the deck or bust here for her.
I mean, Shieldred's kind of been the name of the game for both players at this point. And that's kind of an interesting place to be, where kind of one card on either side of the board has just been how things have needed to go, and the duress to Amanda kind of feeling like an embarrassment of riches here now.
This deck has been so impressive. Amanda just taking Zoe's hand apart, really taking the game plan apart of these Esper controllers as we see her getting in with this Shieldred. She looked like she might have been in trouble in the early stages of this game, but having won game number 1, looks like Make Disappear. Yeah, that's going to be countering the Memory Deluge. She's looking in a great spot to take home the title in just 2 games. And Shieldred trigger on the stack. Zoe's going to have to cycle Rafine's tower to try and find an answer, but that doesn't do it, right? Unless it's exactly Wandering Emperor.
But the go for the throat means that even if there's Wandering Emperor, Amanda can go for the throat her own Shieldred and win it, so it's over.
Oh my goodness. Insane stuff. Siphon Insight to target Amanda. Zoe doesn't know that there's a go for the throat, and that is going to do it. Amanda Cossai with Dimir tempo, just absolutely wrecking her way through the metagame of this top 8, taking down 2 Esper decks in a row, as well as Esper Legends in the quarterfinals. And wow, what an incredible finals we had from both players. I mean, obviously, like in terms of the decks, it looked really like the Dimir deck was very ahead. But Beky, the way that Zoe played was so impressive as well.
Yeah, and I think that we also kind of have to mention that a lot of these Esper control decks, like, they have a rough time against something like this, but they both put up great fights. And I think, like, Amanda knew how to play against both of these decks, and I think you have to give credit where credit is due, that a lot of Amanda being able to take this down is likely from playing a lot of this matchup and understanding how exactly this Dimir aggro deck is going to win against something like those control decks, and just showed it off beautifully, like, twice in this top 8 for us.
Yeah, great stuff there from Amanda. Congratulations to our new champion of season 10 of the VML. It's Amanda Cossai with Dimir aggro. Arya, I mean, you see that from Amanda herself, like, just knew that this deck didn't have bad matchups against all the top decks, had studied, what the opponents were likely to be playing, and just what a run out and what well played matches we've seen from her, Arya.
Yeah, truly a masterclass piloting this deck, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this deck catch on a little more now because I mean the Esper decks, some of the more popular decks, and the mono black interaction plus counter spells, a good suite of answers to just generally be at least a little safe against most matchups, like Amanda points out in her answer. So excellent call, excellent deck choice, excellently played. Just overall really impressive and a very deserving season 10 champion.
Certainly very deserving. And Amanda also actually playing out of Europe. It says only one of 3 European players in the VML championships coming up. So she's going to be representing, not only her own hopes and dreams, but also her region. So great stuff there from Amanda. I mean, thank you so much to all of you. And also, can I just say, can we just also give like a massive shout out and big hand to all of our players in the top 8, because it is not easy, right? Like Arya, you've been here obviously a couple of times. Beky, I can't remember whether you've been in the top 8 of a VML. Maybe once.
Only once.
Say maybe twice. Yeah.
I hold on to that.
It is not easy, all right? It is not easy to play week in, week out. You saw that on Amanda's side. She started the season 0-2 and made it all the way to win the championship, which is wild. Like, it is really one of the hardest events that you can play in Magic. And making it this far, fantastic. All of them will be representing the VML and our community at their regional championships. Plus, we will get to see them, of course, back here battling out for those Pro Tour invites at the VML championships. That's going to be in a month's time, 19th and 20th of August. And Arya, and Beky will all be back here covering that. We'll be joined by Kuro, who's one of our awesome casters as well for that. So make sure you do not miss the VML Championships coming up in 19th and 20th of August. Arya, give us the summary of your thoughts as we round out today's broadcast.
Yeah, more than anything, really impressed with Amanda's performance today. Really excited for the VML championships. Great to see all these honestly mix of newer players and veterans. Some VML players who've been playing the VML since before I started, and some who this is one of their first or second seasons and have already made it to a championship. So really excited to see how these players perform there, and honestly, just really glad I get to watch and commentate all this amazing magic.
Beky, what are your final thoughts for season 10?
I mean, I've been a part of the VML since season 1. I'm big in game changers and a lot of the female non-binary scenes for Valorant, and being a part of both of these areas, it's so cool to see how far we've come from just like 2013, which is pretty much as long as I've been playing computer games, gaming in general. If you'd have asked me if we would be here in 10 years, I would have told you no chance. It's so cool to see how far we've come with the support that we get. I deeply am just so thankful to everybody who plays, who watches, who supports us. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue it and see you all on August 19th and 20th.
Yeah, I mean, I really got to echo what you say there, Beky. We started out in January 2020, maybe December 2019, with 24 players in season 1 of the VML, and now we sell out 128 slots within hours of opening. And we have all these invites, and we've got, of course, got to say massive thank you to our sponsors as part of that. Wizards of the Coast, of course, could not do without their support. And Good Luck High Five as well. If you've not checked out Good Luck High Five, like, what are you even doing? Megan and Maria, 2 of the coolest people in Magic, obviously. So check out Good Luck High Five. And I also want to give a massive shout out to Phoebe, our producer, who is incredible, has been with us since the beginning, taught herself how to do everything, and is responsible for all of the magic of this broadcast. Thank you to everyone, all the team, the mods, everyone in leadership, everyone in everything that contributes to the VML, the community, and thank you, of course, to all of our viewers. And finally, once again, our congratulations to Amanda Cossai, who is your champion for VML Season 10, and she's going to be representing us at the regional championships, and of course, we'll see her at the VML championships as well. Arya, Beky, it's been an absolute pleasure. How can people get in touch with you if they want to find you?
I'm Beky Bear on everything that I want to be found on.
Hotdog_98 on everything I want to be found on, including Twitter, and actually almost only Twitter. So I don't really use a lot of social media.
Arya doesn't actually exist in the meat space. She's just only a Twitter entity. That's it. And I've been Haiyue. I have been Haiyue. I will continue probably to be Haiyue. You can find me at Nefet everywhere, including on Mastodon at Nefet at kind.social, which if you've not checked out Mastodon, you should come to kind.social, which is the coolest instance. Just a little plug for my favorite social network of the moment. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much. Good night. We will see you back here for the championships, 19th and 20th of August. Cannot wait. Draft and standard, and 2 people going to the Pro Tour. We will see you there. Do not miss that. And have a great weekend. Love you all.